What's up, everybody? It's Ryan from Reformation Designs, and I'm about to go live with my friend Jenna. Last year, she generated over $70,000 in her own product sales. She makes her own jewelry and sells it on things like Amazon and Etsy. And we're going to talk all things creativity and building your own business and what that has looked like for her. Stick around. What is up, everybody? I am Ryan Rhoades with Reformation Designs, and today I am here with my friend Jenna of JennaScifres.com.
Yeah.
So we are here today to talk about branding, and this is episode 3 in a series that I'm doing. My first 2 were Branding 101 and Branding 102, obviously. And today we're talking about making and selling your own stuff. And the reason that I have Jenna on here is because last year she generated over $80,000 in her own product sales that she created, her own products, put them online, and generated over $80,000 in sales. So pretty awesome. So round of applause for her.
Thank you.
And suddenly I wish I had a sound effect board here. So
Oh yeah, like an applause button. That'll
I
be
need
fun.
to
We
write
do
that down. So
that.
I don't have a pen, but somebody remind me at some point. So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Jenna, how about you just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about how we got connected, and then we can immediately start talking about all the branding stuff.
Okay, so hang on one second because I am just posting in our Vayner Nation group that we're
Okay.
in. Sorry, I'm
Oh
so
no,
sorry.
no, it's totally fine.
I didn't mean to be distracted by my phone.
No, it's totally cool.
So I'm Jenna Scifres, and my company is called Jenna Scifres Handmade Jewelry. And I started making jewelry and really kind of getting serious about selling in 2009. And I started by selling at a local farmer's market and a couple other places like arts and crafts fairs, things like that, little like community gatherings
Mm-hmm.
and art shows. So, and then started selling online in 2011. I kept having people ask me, "Are you on Etsy? Do you sell on Etsy?" And I didn't know what it was. So, looked it up probably in like 2010 and really didn't get super serious about selling online until maybe just about 2 to 3 years ago, and
Okay.
really saw it as a viable source of some really good income for me.
Okay. And so, what was it? Just kind of a quick question that came to mind here. What
Yeah.
was it at first that had you realize that this is something that, wow, okay, like I could actually be making real money doing this for myself on my own, without having to do the 9 to 5 thing? I mean, so you're probably doing like the 9 to 9 thing, like 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift, right?
Oh yeah, it was really crazy. It was really crazy. So I don't even think I've even ever told you this before, but I used to be in human resources.
Okay.
So
No. Huh.
I had a pretty good corporate position in human resources for a really large engineering company.
Okay.
And I worked there for over 12 years. And so I had all these ideas of side projects all the time. I'm a violinist, so I taught violin lessons on the side for a number of years, for over 10 years actually. And I kind of always thought of jewelry. I didn't really take it seriously myself because I know we were talking about that earlier. Um, I just really thought of it as like a little bit of extra income. And then once I love the business aspect of selling online. So once I really started reading about other stories of other Etsy sellers selling online, people making, there's actually part of the Etsy blog that's called Quit Your Day Job. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but
No. Huh.
it's like a blog feature that Etsy has that's called Quit Your Day Job. And they just tell stories of people that have quit their corporate jobs and made a living selling primarily on Etsy. So those were kind of inspirational to me. Um, so just knowing that it was possible and seeing that other people were doing it really inspired me. And I was like, this really could be something. This really could, my first year on Etsy, I made like, it was probably like 14 or $1,500. So I never really thought in the beginning that this could be a way of life and I could quit my job. So it just kept growing and growing. I kept learning. Um, I didn't really have much of a social life. I just worked after work all the time. I worked during my lunch. I worked before work on my side hustle. So it just kept expanding.
So, and that's I think part of the aspect of so much of this that a lot of people don't think about when they start their own thing. It's like they see the really successful people, or they see the people that they think are super successful, but they don't see all the work that goes into it behind the scenes. And so
Yeah.
I've been really fascinated with some of the content that you share, because you do show a lot of the behind the scenes, and you do kind of bring people into the world of what it's like to run your own thing. And so that's actually the way, guys, that I met Jenna, was through one of Gary Vaynerchuk's fan group on Facebook.
Mhm.
And so we just connected a few months back, and talk regularly about business things, and different tips for how to run our own online stores, because we just recently started ours. And if you haven't seen that, you can check that out at rdshop.biz. I don't have a graphic for it, and suddenly I realized that I need one.
Another thing to add to the list.
Yeah, so let me actually, I'm gonna write that down here real
I
quick.
know how it goes because it's just, I mean, this is like all part of the process. You learn as you go. Nothing is like
Right.
this right here is like a perfect example of like nothing's done overnight. It's just little piece by piece, brick by brick, you build your business and you find things that need to be improved upon and things that you need to do.
Right,
I'm
and
just
see, and my friend Brent, he's an excellent illustrator and friend, who just dropped the link in there.
Oh yeah.
Mary B said she's heading to her PO box, but gonna listen as I drive. Mary, you're
Cool.
let me know that that tote bag might actually be in your PO box right now. So I'd be super excited to hear if that's the
Oh,
case.
that's awesome. I really enjoyed watching the video with Mary also that you when you interviewed her. I
Excellent.
so agreed the whole time I was listening to your guys's video. I was like, yes, I totally agree. Yes, I totally agree.
Well, and that's part of it, where people, they want to, they're in their jobs and they're thinking like, man, what would it be like if I did insert idea here, and then was able to make a living out of it. And if there's anything that you take from this whole video, or this whole series of videos that we're doing, it is that you can do it. But just know going in, like, it's going to be work. You're going to have to
Yeah.
ask for a lot of help and connect with a lot of people who have gone before you, and do your homework, learn from the experts, learn from people who are doing what you want to do, and just send them a message, send them an email, or ask them like, hey, how did you do X? Or do you have any recommended books that really changed your life? Like, that's what I've done over the years, and doing that has brought us to where we're at now, where we can, we're kind of at a place where I feel like we have some things that we can share with those of you who are watching, and in hopes that it inspires you to go and do your thing. Because I believe that if all of us as creators and entrepreneurs are kind of bringing our own value, bringing our own voice to the marketplace, that we don't have to do things the way that we were all told that we have to do them. We don't have to work at a job that we hate, doing something we don't like. And I'm not naive that it's an immense privilege, and I'm very, very thankful to have been able to do the kinds of things that we're doing. But Jenna, I'm curious, for you, like, what was it that really kind of inspired you? I want to talk a little bit here about branding now.
Hmm.
What was it that kind of got you from that space of, yeah, you know what, I've got this side hustle, I've got this thing that I'm doing, uh, and I'm making some money, but like, you wanted to go pro. Like, there comes a point where you're like, you know what, I want to do this for real, and like burn the ships
Yeah.
behind me, kind of thing. So
Yes.
so
Yeah,
what
totally.
what was that moment like, and like, and how did that influence your decision to get serious about your branding?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think because a lot of creative people I think are in this same situation where they have like 10 things that they want to do. So one thing, I mean, I have had so many different ideas and I've had so many different projects and things that I thought were going to be like my thing. Like, oh, this is going to be my next big thing. This is going to be like, I started a social media marketing company at one point in time. I thought that, playing music was going to be my thing. So I totally get the struggle of like not knowing which direction to go. But it seemed like jewelry was always a constant as far as the demand for it, which is kind of ironic because jewelry is a very competitive, very saturated market. But I always had friends and family saying, "Can you make this for me?" Or if it was like a gift, "Oh, I don't really want a gift or a gift card. I want you to make me something." So it was just something that was always a constant. And there's actually a really good book. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's about scanners. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term scanner before.
Scan like
Um,
from like the 1980s horror movie, like their heads would
well, I didn't.
explode.
I don't know about that,
There's a whole
but
horror movie, like a
oh, I
sci-fi
didn't know
movie.
that that was a horror movie. That's so funny. I'm not a
Scanners?
horror movie person, so
No.
I didn't know that. But scanners is like people who like to try a bunch of different things. It's like this terminology that
Hmm.
the author is Barbara Sher, Sher, and it has
Sher.
Sher. Yeah. So I don't know her book. The title has something to do with scanners, but I feel really bad. I'm drawing a blank
Oh
on what
no,
the
it's fine.
actual
I
title
wrote
is.
it down. I got notes
Okay.
here, so
But
I
I
can
would
look it up.
suggest that, like, if anybody has that feeling of, I don't know what to do with my life, or I feel like there's, five different things that I feel like I could be doing.
Sarah,
So,
Sarah, if you're watching, you should probably take notes and get this book that Jenna's talking
yeah,
about,
and I think it
and a
also
lot
has
of
to
you
do,
other people watching too.
I think it's just a creative problem. And I mentioned earlier that I have really bad ADD. So I think that being a scanner and having ADD kind of goes hand in hand. But I think that it really, I almost I think it was like 3 years ago, I was thinking like maybe I should just quit doing jewelry and just focus on my music, or I should focus on this. I felt like I was just being torn in so many different directions. And that was a thought that I even had, was maybe I should quit jewelry so I can focus on other things. But it kept coming back to, people kept asking me for it. So I feel like if you've got something in your life that is in demand by your friends and family, and the people in your life, or even people that you don't know, that keep bringing it up. I didn't feel like I really had a huge passion for it. I know that sounds really weird because now I'm all about it. Um, but I always really enjoyed doing jewelry. I didn't take myself seriously. I didn't think this can be a business. So I don't really know if it was like a specific moment in time where it was like the light bulb went
Oh
off
yeah,
and I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh, this is it for me. Because I felt like I had my hand in so many other different things, but it just kept getting kind of pushed to the forefront of, the demand was there.
Right.
So it took me a while to realize it. I guess that was a long-winded way of saying like there wasn't one thing that
Sure.
made me like, oh, I'm going to make jewelry. It just kind of got built slowly over time.
Is it Brent and Sarah said? Is it called Refuse to Choose?
Yes, that is
Yes.
it.
So
Refuse to choose.
we're crowdsourcing this podcast
Yes,
thing. So
thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, so she is, the whole time I read that book, so it was probably around like 2011 I read that book. And I just kept saying like, "Oh my gosh, this is so me. This is totally me. Like this woman completely gets me." So
Interesting. I'll have
that
to
is
check it out because I'm like, well, I can't decide. Like, well, should I just do logos? Should I just do It's like it's like one big picture for me, you know?
Yeah, she has a really good, she kind of almost makes it feel like, okay, I'm allowed to have all these different plates spinning at the same time. I don't have to choose. So
Right.
she's really good about that. You'll really enjoy that book.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited. I read obsessively because why not? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
if we're in a place now where we're not being mandated to read certain number of books, a
Yeah.
week or in a month for school or something, and
I'm
it took
always reading though and listening, so
well,
I
and
agree.
it took me a while, like after I got out of school, to really think about it. Like, oh yeah, like read or listen to whatever I want. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
being forced or told this is what I should read, but I started thinking about, like, okay, well, who are some people that I look up to? Who are some people that throughout history that I want to know more about? Things like that, things that piqued my interest. And so I start same kind of thing. I just started scanning around and picking up graphic design and video and just learning from people on YouTube and whatever.
Oh yeah.
And more, there's a limitless amount of stuff that you can learn how to do. So if you have this idea that's kind of kicking around in your head, and like Jenna was saying, if you feel like you would be good at running your own blah 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 business, like whatever it is, just try it. Like, literally, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, don't go into exorbitant amounts of debt on something that you're not sure about. So just a little public service announcement, kids who are considering going into exorbitant amounts of debt for education, you don't need to.
No, very
so
true.
so you can teach yourself how to do the things that make you light up. And
Yeah.
that's, for me, one of the reasons why I started my business in the first place, was because I'm like, you know what, we can put our artwork on clothing, we can put it on art prints and sell it, and we can, create music and videos and content and stuff that people are willing to pay for. It's like, so why not try? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have the opportunity. And so that was kind of, for me, it was same kind of thing. It wasn't this immediate, like, oh, there's this sudden moment where, like, the skies open up and it's like, now it is time to start your business. Oh, looks like
Yeah, exactly.
my actual microphone's here. This is, for those of you who don't realize, this is not a real microphone. The illusion is ruined.
Oh no.
But it'll probably sound like a intense radio voice when I'm talking here, so we won't do that. Anyway,
So,
yeah,
oh, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, if you're kicking around these ideas, I guess my question, and probably a lot of people who would listen to this, their question would be, how practically, what did it look like for you when you started your business and really started getting serious about your branding? Like, what were some of the steps that you took?
So, I actually want to mention something else. I'm not going to talk about books like the whole time, but there's one
Sure.
more book that I want to mention.
No, excellent. I will put it in the show notes and
Okay,
send
cool.
out links and stuff.
So there's one that I really recommend called The Artist's Way. Have you ever read that?
Absolutely. I've gone
I
through
love The
it 2 or
Artist's
3
Way.
times now.
So they also have an Artist's Way workbook.
Yep.
And the whole morning pages thing. So for anybody watching that doesn't know, I felt like so the morning pages is you write 3 pages of longhand, like actually writing in a notebook, instead of typing on a computer. Kind of just flows a little bit better. It's like,
Right.
makes you do it. So anyway, you write every morning, just like stream of consciousness, like just blah, 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 get it out of your head. So I feel like that really helped me kind of pinpoint or know, it kept coming back to jewelry all the time. And that's actually how I started my business. Was I put down all my ideas of, I want to have a booth, I want to do this. And I'm like really into The Secret also. I don't think I'm too much of a woo-woo, rah-rah secret person,
Sure.
like I'm not too crazy
Yeah.
about it, but I do definitely think what you think about and you're constantly focused on comes about in your life. So I was really trying to be focusing on the positive. I had gone through a divorce also. So it's like all these things were happening. I went through a divorce in 2009. And I feel like that combined with, okay, I need extra money, and trying not to be like in desperation of
Sure.
like, okay, I need to sell stuff and figure out a way to make extra money. But also I want to be happy. I want to be doing something that I love, So working through all that and figuring that out, the morning pages and the whole system of The Artist's Way like really helped me.
Absolutely.
So as I started writing out, like, what does this look like? What is happening? What do I want to do? I kept writing about just things that I wanted to happen. So I want to have like my booth put together at the farmer's market. First I only had one table and I didn't have a tent. So like I only had a table with one table and one tablecloth, and it just looked so bad in the beginning.
Right.
So, I just wrote about everything that I wanted to, that I
Right.
envisioned.
So you got
So,
it out of your head, and it was something
yes.
that you kept in front of you all the time.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
had this green notebook. It was the first time I ever really started doing that. I will never forget like this green notebook. It's around here somewhere. But I just wrote like everything I envisioned for my business and like I want to be selling online. It was just some of it was really crazy. Like, how are you gonna even get from point A to point B? You're out of your mind. I kept
We
thinking,
all feel that
how
way all the
how is this
time.
going to yeah, how is
All
this
the
going to
time.
happen? And that's kind of how it all started. So I didn't have my branding together. I didn't have packaging. I really, some people when they start their business, they are like, I'm going to invest $5,000 into this and I'm going to buy my materials and supplies. Like with me, it all happened very, very gradually over time.
Yep.
So it wasn't like one leap or one big decision. And it just kept growing. And I kept, I felt like a failure and a fake and all this stuff at first. So I'm sure everybody has those feelings. I still kind of feel that way. Like my photography could be better. There's so many, this like a constant state of evolving and improvement.
Right.
So I
Well,
don't
and
know if
that's
that answers your
yeah,
question.
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is like I'm just interested in having conversations about this stuff, because it helps me, it helps people who are watching, it helps show other people like, there's different ways to go about doing business other than the traditional, like you said, like you go into debt and you buy a bunch of stuff all at once because you think that you know what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, you don't have to do that, and honestly, I'd recommend not doing that.
Yeah.
Unless you're like gonna start a restaurant or something like that. Like, I mean, even if you do want to start a restaurant, like start at a farmer's market, start somewhere, have people test your stuff, have people
Oh,
test your
that's a great
product.
point. Yeah, that's a great
There's
point.
a restaurant here in Salem that they started selling salsa at this local farmers market. It's like a homemade salsa, um, and they started selling out literally like every time they'd go because people just loved it, and it just word got around, and people kept asking for it. They kept asking like, can we buy it in bulk? Can we get it at home? So they ended up raising enough money doing that way, starting gradually, to now they have a brick and mortar in like a really prominent location here downtown, and they've got a full menu and whatever. So it's one of those things where I just encourage
That's
people,
cool.
wherever you're at in the formation of your idea or your project or your business, it's always a process. It's always stacking layers on top of layers and you figuring things out as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's never really this moment of like, lightning bolt inspiration. Like you might get a fleeting idea of, like you said, like the things that you want, but in terms of having to get there, it's kind of the concept of, I think Simon Sinek says it like, you can see the mountain and you can climb the mountain fast and you can climb the mountain slow, but you have to climb the mountain.
Yeah.
And so it's like we can see it, we can describe it, and so you've found that, I'm assuming then, that the morning pages has been really helpful for you in terms of navigating that mountain and climbing and figuring out like, okay, here's what I want. Now, how do I get there? And you probably have seen, at least as I have, that you figure it out the same way that you did with those morning pages. You one step at a time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's still stuff like goals that I have now that I have no idea how it's going to happen, but I know like I just have to break it up and figure it out one step at a time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for expanding on that. I appreciate it. So moving further on into into the branding topic specifically, you had mentioned wanting to talk more about your fonts, your colors, your design. So what are some of your thoughts on that? Like, how has your branding influenced the way that you package and sell your products, and as well
So,
as not just your products, but like your online presence, your marketing, all that stuff?
So definitely something that I kind of have in my mind because if I don't set parameters for myself of what my brand is and what it's not, I know that I would spend all day like contemplating what I should be using for a page on my website or whatever. Like it's just way too many options. So I feel like um whether you're just starting out or you're kind of redefining your brand, to set up like, I'm only going to use, like, for example, I'm only going to use pink and gray. Sometimes I throw in mint, but most of the time I just do pink and gray. So I have my pink color picked out. I mean, I've got other colors in my color palette that I do. Sometimes I do black and gray, but I feel like that doesn't clash too much with the pink situation. But I just really try to stick with that, like in my little heart on my JS logo, there's a little bit of pink there. So I set up those parameters for myself, and I would recommend to do the same. Like if people want a certain shade of green or whatever, it's just so good to know like that you don't have to make that decision, or, oh, I could go with this color or this layout or this design, even if you don't have like a proper branded logo and that stuff, which you should. But if you don't have it yet or you can't afford it yet, set yourself with only like one font that you're going to use on everything, or two fonts at the very, very, very
and
most, like
and
two
do not
fonts.
and do not, especially if you're going to do like farmers market stuff, because you will not be the only one using it. Do not use papyrus or Comic Sans.
Yes,
You,
that's so
I
true.
promise you, if you do that,
Yes,
you will not stand out at a farmer's market.
yes, exactly. And people will get like confused with your brand thinking it's someone else's. So definitely.
Quick question, Jenna. Sarah has to hop off here, but she said she wanted to ask um, how you were able to break out from the crowd in such a saturated market. Did you do Google AdWords? What was the process?
Well, what really took off for me was learning about Etsy SEO. So, because Etsy, right now, Etsy is actually not my primary focus, because they're going through a lot of changes. The algorithm's different. There's a ton of, and we can touch on this later, but there's a huge announcement this morning that came out like just today that just,
You said you broke out by using what? I'm sorry, I was writing it
I'm
down.
sorry. Um, Etsy SEO.
Okay, yeah,
So it
perfect.
kind of like said Etsy SEO like too quick probably. But so search engine optimization within Etsy is so different than Google or what else you might be familiar with. So if you're selling on Etsy specifically, there's a whole different um, SEO algorithm that they use. So I studied everything I could possibly see about that. I tried a bunch of different things also, because sometimes it was just trial and error. And I would watch videos like YouTube tutorials of people talking about SEO within Etsy, and they'd be contradicting each other. So just kind of trying out my own thing. But that is really what made me take off from making like around $1,500 a year to making over $50,000 a year was SEO, big time.
Very cool. Thank you
And
for
renewing, I should mention renewing. Like, so it's the frequency
renewing what.
affects the renewing the Etsy listings. So you can go in and renew it and act like it's a brand new product.
Okay.
So there are actually websites to do that for you. The one that I use is Etsy on sale,
Okay.
and they will go in and you set up your frequency and what products you want renewed. Like, for example, I would say like the oldest listing, I want renewed you can set it up like every 5 minutes if you want to renew something every 5 minutes, if you want to renew it every 5 days or one day or every three
So
hours.
is that a subscription service that you pay for, or
You do pay for it. It's not a subscription. You just kind of pay as you go. Like so many renewals is
I see.
access to have renewals is like $25 or whatever.
And Etsy doesn't frown on that. That you don't have any issues with it.
Oh, and then so that's no, they don't. The out it's kind of complicated to
Oh
talk
no,
about
that's
it.
fine. I
There's
mean, we
just
can
so
talk about
much.
that in another thing too.
Um
But yeah.
no, that's fine. But it's not really a subscription, but the website Etsy on sale is not a part of Etsy, but it just works with Etsy. But you do have to pay for that, and then you have to pay for each item that renews. So you have to pay 20 cents per listing. And it basically just puts you at the top of the list in the search results. So the fresher you are, the more frequently you're renewing this stuff, it just bumps you up to the top again.
So with Etsy then, because I know with WordPress and things like that, you're it keeps like a strict URL for that product. So when you renew, does it actually change the URL of the product?
That's a really good question. I don't think it does.
Because,
I
well,
don't,
the
I
only
don't,
reason I ask is if it's on your website and then you renew it and then the links no longer work. You know what I mean?
yeah, that wouldn't happen. That's never happened before. Because I used to have, I use Shopify now and I used to use WordPress. And
Sure.
I just had everything fed in from I use a WordPress plugin that basically just replicated all my Etsy listings.
Oh, okay.
So when someone would,
What was that? If you don't know,
I'd
that's
have
fine.
to, I'd have to look it up. I don't
Okay.
remember. Um, but you could search WordPress plugins for like an Etsy if somebody was interested in doing that. So it just basically pulled all of your Etsy listings, which if you're not big on having Shopify or having your own website or whatever, it's okay to do. But I would really recommend getting away from that because you're just still, all of your products are still on Etsy.
Right.
So, but it's an easy way to do it. It's a quick fix
Right.
if you want to have your products on your website. So, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, but if I linked to that product on Etsy, it never was broken. So I don't know that 100% for sure, but I would
Okay.
assume that it's not changing the URL.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Great. Sarah said she has to run, but we'll watch the rest later. Thank you, Boss Babe.
Oh, yay! Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so that's really good on the stuff with Etsy. So if you guys have further questions for Jenna on specifics like that, definitely drop them in the comments. We'll see them. So we do have some stuff that we have written down to talk about, but if you guys have things that are kind of sparking here that you're like, man, I really wish I knew what the answer to this was, just let us know.
Cool.
So
I was going to say
yeah.
also, I forgot to mention this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm having a giveaway on my Facebook and my Instagram, but I was going to also do a giveaway here.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I don't know if any of the guys watching would be interested, but they could gift these to somebody else.
Yeah.
But they're like blue, sparkly. It's
Oh, they're really
called.
pretty. Let me let me see if I can make this window bigger. Nope, I can't. Not right now.
Okay.
So.
Well, anyway, I just was thinking that if anybody comments and asks a question, that I can just randomly pick from someone who asked a question, and they'll get these for free.
Oh, excellent. Awesome. So Sarah, I'm assuming, is automatically entered. Just
yeah, she's in.
And cool. So moving on a little bit here, you'd mentioned before we started going live that you wanted to talk more about the business brain versus the creative brain. So can you expand on that a little bit? I'm curious.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that Mary also touched on in her video, and this is why I was saying, like, I so agreed with what you guys were mentioning about that, is that you have to love the business aspects.
Yep.
Just as much or more than actually making and being creative. So whether you're playing music or you're making jewelry or you're doing graphic design or whatever it is that you're doing, you have to love the business aspects just as much or you're not going to succeed. And that's a strength that I am so happy that I have, is that I love learning about the business side of things. I love reading books about it. I listen to books all the time. I'm always looking on YouTube. I'm always like installing apps that have to do with my business and reading articles. And, I'm like the first person to try something new for my business. And I'm not afraid to fail. I mean, I am.
But we're all terrified of failure.
But I just kind of try to get over it quickly.
Right.
So I think that that's just something that or is Kyle saying something funny?
He said, what type of question do I have to ask? Did I just hack the system by asking a question about the type of questions I need to ask?
We'll enter him anyway.
Yeah, I said I'll allow it. It's okay.
But more importantly, does Kyle have pierced ears?
I don't know. He might.
So anyway, he can give them to someone else if he wins. But I think that it's he's interacting, so that counts definitely. So I think that what I'm getting at as far as the business thing is, if you don't have that skill and you're aware, so Gary Vaynerchuk is always talking about like being self-aware. So if you know that that's not one of your strengths, you either have to have a business partner or you have to contract it out or something. You have to pay somebody to figure out the SEO or the bookkeeping or whatever it is. I'm the SEO and bookkeeping just
Well,
came
yeah,
off
I mean
the top
the
of my head, but
SEO, bookkeeping. I mean, and that's part of it. Like
yeah.
um, people don't realize that all of this, like, there's so many moving parts. Like just me being able to broadcast this in this digital set, like
That's amazing.
this is a green screen. Obviously, like I can turn off the background here if I
He's
wanted
been
to.
blowing my mind with this stuff.
So
It's
watch,
amazing.
like, this is a green screen, and I can just pull the curtain back. This is my closet back here, um, but all of this, life, business, design, whatever, art, all of it boils down to layers. Like every aspect of this digital set that you guys see is layers. So like I can turn off these little critters. I can turn off the
That's cool.
VIPs thing over here. I can turn off this nameplate. Like so much of this is just layers, layers, layers. And if you don't currently think like that,
Hmm.
um, try to start thinking about every aspect of your business, your art project, whatever, like it's a different layer that informs a whole. Because whether it's your bookkeeping, your accounting, your invoicing, keeping track of your to-do list, your calendar, the appointments you have to make, your website, your branding, you know, oh, and also sales, like you have to sell
Oh
your
yeah.
stuff or you don't make money. So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
marketing. This is marketing. We're doing marketing right now, and that's so much of what this boils down to, guys, is you have to be the one that's kind of got the big picture overview of it. Or if you don't have that, you have to bring people in to do it with you.
Yes,
Who
yeah.
and have you ever? I'm actually curious on that note. Have you ever had a time where you had that experience where you're like, I need to outsource some of this, and you brought people in, and
Oh
then we're
yeah.
like, oh my god, I regretted this so mad or so
Oh.
bad. Like, have you ever? I mean, how do you vet the people that are partnering with you? That's, I guess, what the question boils down to.
Well, there's been times like instances of like product photography or things like that where I wasn't like totally blown away by what they did. And, there's some stuff that you just have to chalk up as an expense or a learning experience and then just, not do business with that person any longer. I'd say I haven't, excuse me, I haven't really like regretted anything major like that because at the end of the day, it's still my business. I call the shots and I'm very serious about, I'm like a very, I don't know, a easygoing person, but I'm very, very serious about my business. So I think people may think like, oh, she's so laid back and she doesn't care about it or whatever. But I am like so serious about being a business person, that, this is my livelihood. This is what I do full time now. I don't have that day job anymore. Um, I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but I had quit my day job. You know that, but I don't know that
Yeah.
everybody else knows that. Um, in 2016, in August of 2016.
Okay.
So it's kind of, it's I could be kind of ruthless about that. I think like as easygoing as I am, like if it's not working out, it's not working out. Like
Right.
I'm going to sever ties with that person, and it's business. It's
Right.
no hard feelings, but sometimes you don't mesh well with someone that you're doing business with. So
Right.
I wouldn't enter lightly into a business partnership whatsoever. And at this point, I wouldn't have a business partner unless it was something completely new and different
Right.
than jewelry. Um,
So just for people who don't understand the difference, like how do you understand the differentiation between business partner and contractor?
Okay, so like a contractor, I hired a contractor to do my logo and some of the design for the working parts of my website.
Right.
I've hired contractors to work on my Shopify. So it's people that they offer a service. uh, you have like a set project or a set start date and end date, or you have a set like
Hmm.
objective.
Yep.
And that is where I'm saying that I'm like ruthless about it, where, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And really, if you're entering into some kind of business arrangement like that with a contractor, it's best to have set objectives. So
Yep.
anybody who's worked for me at my house, I've had probably like 7 or 8 total contractors that have helped me make jewelry, that are just part-time contractors,
Hmm.
and they come here and they work. And for the most part, I've always had um, like a 30-day trial period
Sure.
of, okay, here is when we're going to talk about how you're doing and what you need to improve on. So they know that from day one that we're going to be having that talk. So when we sit down and I say, like, this is what you're great at, this is what maybe needs a little bit more improvement. Do you agree? What do you think you need to work on? We
Right.
kind so I think that a lot of that comes from my HR background.
Probably.
So
But it works well though. It helps you. It helps you
yeah,
set concrete goals, and it helps you as the business owner have more of an understanding of like, hey, you're out there in the marketplace like representing me, so
yeah.
that's important to be able to do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think setting those expectations from the beginning makes everybody more comfortable, makes me more comfortable, makes the person more the contractor more comfortable, or saying like, this is the limit of, if you're paying somebody by the hour, this is the limit of hours that I'm wanting to pay you this week or this month or whatever, or for this project total. So I think having um, more of a formal type of expectation is key when you're setting out with contractor relationships. But then as that versus like a business partner, if you're looking for a business partner going into something with friends, I have had a situation like that in the past, and I just think I work better alone. It sounds like I'm like not a team player,
No,
but
no, no.
I
But it shows
yeah,
it shows that you know that you're the pilot of your ship.
yes, I know what I want, and I know what the end result needs to be and what
Right.
I need to do and the expectation, which also can be bad because if I'm not getting sales or if my business isn't doing well, it's totally on me and I need to make the decisions to get that turned around.
Right. So what do you?
There's nobody else to blame.
So okay, so on that note, then I'm curious. This is a good segue.
Mhm.
How do you, whenever you started selling on different platforms, um, what was it like? Where did you start? Did you start on Etsy? Did you start on your own site? I know you're on Amazon also. So like, how
Mhm.
was it that you decided, okay, I'm gonna be much more prolific with my work. I'm gonna be in all these different marketplaces. Um, and what have you found to be the most effective, and why, and where are you going? I know you had mentioned there's been some changes at Etsy. I did not know about that, but I'm kind of curious on what's going on with all that.
Yeah, so I started on Etsy. That was my main thing of I had no idea about, I was completely clueless about like websites or what I needed to be doing. Um, totally had no idea how to start a store. So that is what's kind of really great about Etsy is it is a very easy way to get started without
It's like
knowing much
it's user
about.
friendly. Like there's not a lot of initial
Yes.
tech setup.
Yes, exactly. And there's not, I mean, if you're not like a technology person, I wouldn't say I'm a technology expert, but I do learn fast. I pick up on things fast. But Etsy is probably one of the easiest platforms ever. So, um, Etsy is a really easy way to get started if you're making handmade products. And the thing about Etsy also that a lot of people don't know is that you can sell, there's like 3 main categories on Etsy. It's handmade, vintage, or supplies for making other items. So you'll see stuff that it are like beads or wire, chain, raw materials. I'm just thinking in terms of jewelry making because that's what I look for. But you can find like raw fabric, gemstones, I don't know, all kinds of stuff, like even like planners and planner stickers and party favors and supplies and things like that. So there's really a lot more that you could do on Etsy. And there's also digital files that you can sell. So
Yeah,
if
that's
you're a designer,
yeah.
sorry.
My question on that actually, because our online store, we have a vendor that we use that is print on demand, so that
Mhm.
I don't have boxes and boxes of T-shirts in my garage like I used to.
Yeah.
I used to sell shirts and stuff out of my trunk in my car, and at like with little Square and PayPal readers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Perfect.
and uh, and so I'm kind of curious, like, because it's print on demand, would I be able to sell my products on Etsy?
Yes, you can. So that is a big thing that people talk about all the time. Some people are it's like a very polarized conversation. Core Etsy sellers that like hate, these other options. Oh, can you hear me? Something just came up where it said my connection was bad. Am I there? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay.
I
We were having some technical
don't
difficulties
know what
there.
happened there. Sorry about that.
My mute button was on, and your internet connection was off. Brent just said,
Yeah.
Ryan, you're muted. So thank you, Brent.
Oh, okay.
Um, there we go. We are back. So not
Yay.
sure what was going on there. Her internet connection got weird. Anyway, I asked about the print on demand thing, and you started to say it's a very polarizing issue. So I'm
Oh
curious.
yes.
So
Yes, it is. So I think anybody should try to make money however they can. But
I just
so
don't want to join a marketplace and get all kinds of haterade
oh
right off
no
the
no
front.
no you and it's totally like Etsy legal completely. So it's called Etsy manufacturing, and you enter in. You have to disclose it if you're using a manufacturer like what is called a third party manufacturer. You would just disclose that on your Etsy profile. There's like a little space where it says like manufacturers that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was a little bit confusing when that first happened. It was maybe about a year ago that they offered that type of thing and said that it was okay to do that. So you don't, like me, I wouldn't enter in any of my suppliers or anything like that. That's proprietary information. It kind of is for you also, though, but it is an option. But you just have to disclose where it might be coming from. So, like if it was a drop shipping type of thing, or they were doing fulfillment, you would just have to put that on your Etsy profile, which people can get upset about because they don't want to give that information away either.
So just to clarify then, like if I wanted to sell my products on Etsy, I would have to not just mention, oh, this is being manufactured elsewhere. I would have to name the actual vendor.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of another reason why it's like a little bit of
Sure.
an issue is if you're having, so for me as a jewelry person, I could design a pendant and then have it outsourced to
Right.
metalsmith and then have them actually like ship it to the person, but I would have to disclose who that was.
Right.
So that's kind of a little bit of the issue of that. So who knows? They might be changing something, but if you're doing that, you are supposed to disclose that.
Okay. Interesting. Diddy Kang has joined. Hello there, sir.
Hi.
Diddy's from the Vayner Nation group, so welcome,
Yes,
sir.
that's how Ryan and I met each other.
That is how we met. So thank you, Gary V, if you somehow end up seeing this.
Oh my God, I would die.
No, you wouldn't. Don't say that. We're just getting started, kids.
I love Gary so much.
I would love to, you know what? I bet we could probably get him to do an interview. If we did it like this, if I was like, hey, like, here, how about
that would be amazing.
We could try. We could be like, hey, Gary, like, how about you come on our show? Me and Jenna met through one of your fan pages, so
oh my gosh,
we'll have to figure something out. That'd be cool. Anyway, so thank you for the info on Etsy. Brent had mentioned that he just found out recently that they sell the digital items, and so he's pondering like print your own greeting cards, invitations, stuff like that.
I got a little buddy here.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
Look,
that's fine.
he's interrupting me.
Who's that?
This is Zeus.
Zeus. Awesome.
He keeps tapping me. He comes up to me and like
Does he
taps
bap?
on me.
He like kind of bap at your leg?
Yes, he keeps doing that over and over again. So
Yeah.
sorry.
It's like, it's
Um,
time for cuddles, Jenna.
you know what though? He's really good for Facebook and my Instagram stories and stuff like that. People love to see him. So I thought I'd show him on this
Yeah,
video.
yeah. Awesome.
So anyway, I'm sorry. What was your
Oh,
question?
no,
I'm so
no, no question. Brent is an illustrator, and he and I
Oh,
have,
about the digital
yeah.
files.
So he
Yeah.
and I have been kind of talking about different things that we could potentially do on there. I've thought about doing like hand lettered custom mugs, or invitation poster print, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can do something where the digital files are ready for download.
Mhm.
And then you can also do so it's like a standardized thing that somebody can print out and that's ready for download. I've seen a lot of people do really well with like calendar items, like printable calendars and printable party invitations and things like that. Or you can say that you're going to be selling a digital file and you can customize it for them. So I think the really how I got started was the personalization and customization, and
Yep.
that's what Etsy's known for.
Right.
So that really gave me
Well,
a
it's a really
huge,
niche market then too.
yeah, it gave me a huge boost to my business being able to offer the personalization.
Interesting. Well, that's something that I've been kicking around for a long time. I just haven't quite figured out, the market research on how I would set it up, kind of what people are into and whatever. So that's good. I'll probably ask you more about that at some point, because I just don't know. Um,
Yeah, and I don't sell digital items at all, but
sure,
I've read a lot about it and seen other people like doing YouTube tutorials on it just because I like to
sure,
learn about Etsy. So I know
awesome.
a little bit about it.
Well, and that's for those of you who don't know, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, that's actually the way that I got started doing design in the first place. I used to work in my aunt and uncle's print shop when I was a kid,
Oh wow,
and
cool.
so we saw like some of the first computers being used to like produce physical objects. And so it was, for me, it was, and it still is. It's like this magical thing. It's like I can take something from the screen, and now I have a mug with my logo on it.
That's awesome.
I have a shirt that I can wear, and being able to form something from nothing, like that process has always been really fascinating to me. And so one of the things that we would do in that print shop a lot was basically go to festivals and kind of like community fair type things, and we would print out custom keychains and T-shirts and mugs and little buttons and stuff like that, kind of like
Oh
keepsakes.
yeah, yeah, I love that.
And
That's
we would
cool.
do it live, like we would do it there. People would show up and say, we'd have like a form to fill out. Hey, what's your name? What do you want this to say? Here's
Hmm.
some templates to choose from, kind of in styles. But I mean, we were constantly busy, anytime we did it. And so I've always been thinking like, how do I replicate that digitally? How can I replicate that model now?
Yeah,
And so we have some things that we've been working on for a while that I'll be unveiling here whenever they're ready. But that's essentially the direction that I'm going with some tests. Productivity planners, calendars, custom mugs with people's names on them, and things like that, because everybody
yeah.
likes seeing their name on stuff. So
And that's also like we were talking. Jewelry is a saturated market. I feel like planners and calendar stuff is also a saturated market. But if you do it well and you have that mindset of what an entrepreneur would want, I
yep,
think you could really
yep.
really do a lot with that.
Well, and I think that at least for me, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm designing a lot of things, I'm always thinking like, how can I make something that I would use?
Oh
And I'm
yeah,
sure for you,
yeah.
it's like, how can I
Me
make
too.
something that I would wear?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I think that that's a really important aspect of this. It's like you don't get to think like that in the standard work box.
Yeah.
You're forced into this space of essentially like taking orders all day at some level. But then whenever you switch into the business owner's shoes, can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you whenever you realized like, oh, I have to be the one to decide every day, like, what do I do? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have I mean, obviously you have a general to-do list, but can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, what's the day-to-day business stuff look like for you? Do you have a schedule that you stick to? I mean, what does that look like?
Oh, I'm still figuring that out right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have my orders that I have to stick to for Etsy and my Shopify website.
Mhm.
I have to really stick to definitely a plan.
Right.
I've been trying to do this thing where I like do time blocking, but I always get off track. I always have like the best intentions of what I'm going to work on, and then it just becomes something completely different. Um, but I try to I think I'm gonna do it like on a daily basis now rather than like a weekly basis
Sure.
because I get to the end of the week and I haven't done everything I'm supposed to do. So
Sure.
I feel like something lately that I've been trying to implement. This is like really getting into the nitty gritty details of my day. But my workshop, I don't know if you can
Yeah, you
see
can
the
kind of see it.
actually very big. It goes back way back in there. Um, so it is a complete mess. And so every day I try to clean for half an hour.
Right.
So that's like it probably I should probably do that at the end of the day, but it kind of like gets me in the mode like to have my coffee and put on a book or music or something and clean for half an hour. So
Right.
I have these little digital timers.
Okay.
I have two of them because I usually lose one. So I have to have two on hand. So that's something that I've been doing lately is trying to do some time blocking, like setting up. Have you ever heard of Pomodoro technique?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
so I've been trying to like do some Pomodoro type like
Mhm.
style of like making a goal for myself of okay, I'm gonna
Can
do
you
this for
can you
40
sum it up
minutes.
for people who are listening who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so it's I don't know the like the textbook terminology, but what
Sure.
I would say is it's using like structured work time and then structured break time. So
Mhm.
kind of focusing for usually I do like 20 or 40 minutes, but some people can go much longer. I just am easily distracted, I guess. But working for a set amount of time, and then if anything comes up during that time, I just write it down on a 3x5 card. So I have like 3x5 cards with me all the
Hmm.
time. So I don't lose my train of thought, but I
It's like you're
know.
acknowledging the idea that shows up randomly
Yeah,
that's like, hey, pay
yeah,
attention to me now.
exactly. Yeah, I have all these like weird little techniques that
No,
I've
but
like
it
picked
works
up.
though. And that's
Yes,
that's
I,
that's the
yeah,
thing that I was really wanting to get at. It's like you've implemented a system that works for you, or you're
yeah.
working on, implementing that system that works for you because you're the one designing the system that runs your business.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I've kind of just like taken from different techniques, like I mentioned the artist way earlier, so I've got like all these different
Mhm.
influences that have happened. But so that's what I'm trying to do is I write down like if it's a new jewelry idea or something that I need to like I'm running out of something that I need to order
Right.
or whatever. Um, because if I think about it, then I'm like, oh, I need more chain. I need to order chain right now. And then I stop what I was working on and I order chain. And then I get on my computer
Right.
and then I'm on Facebook and I'm like, oh, I need to post this a new item. And I get way off track.
Right.
So I try to do the Pomodoro technique where I focus on one specific task for 20 minutes or 40 minutes is usually the way I block my time. And then if anything comes up, I've got my 3x5 cards that I write it on. So then I just kind of put that off. I do a lot of my computer work at night,
Right.
and I make a lot during the day. So my orders kind of have to dictate also, like if I'm really busy, it's been the fourth quarter of the year is my busiest time because of Christmas and
Right.
gifting, things like that. So that time of year, I'm really just making orders. But the rest of the year, I'm trying to come up with new designs. So I try to structure some time where I'm like, okay, for an hour, I'm going to work on some new design ideas that I had, or I'm going to experiment with something new. So I break up my time between the main things I have to do are like photography,
Right.
um, making new items, listing items that I already have, doing some
So do you
SEO
have
research.
like a checklist that you have posted somewhere that's kind of a reminder like, okay, today boom 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 boom.
No, but that's a really good idea. I'm gonna
So
need to,
okay,
I'm gonna need to do that
so check
because
this out.
a lot of it's the same stuff
Right.
every
Right.
day. Yeah, that's a really
So
good idea.
that's there's a there's another couple of books that came to mind.
I'll write
There's
them
a
down on my 3x5 cards.
Yeah, The Life Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo.
I've heard of that,
It
and
sounds
I've
really simple.
never.
It sounds really
What?
simple just reading or from the title, but it's
Yeah.
she's got a really interesting system for cleaning. It's basically don't clean like a room at a time. Don't clean like, half an hour a day or whatever. She says go through like your entire house or your whole living or working space and
Mhm.
get rid of the stuff that like you just don't use or that you're just hoarding or storing for, well, maybe I'll use. It's like if you've not used it in
Yeah.
6 to 12 months, you probably aren't going to. um, and so she recommends clearing all that stuff out and not just being like, oh, move it from one room to the other, because that's what so much of us do, right? It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, I'll put this in a Tupperware container under my bed instead of in a Tupperware container on my bookshelf, like.
Yeah.
um,
I do the same.
right, and we all do it. And so she talks about some really interesting methods to do that, because then what happens is you've created all that extra space in your living space so that you
Mhm.
can then be much more free to dream and make room for the new. Diddy said, "Make Your Bed" by William McRaven. I'm not sure if that's a book. I know it's a video that I've seen, but I will write that down also.
I'm writing it down too. I
Um,
haven't heard of that.
Diddy, what's I can you sum up the premise of that? I know I've seen it, but it was, at least from what I remember, it's basically like first thing you do in the morning, like just make your bed, because then you get to the end of the day and at least if you didn't get anything else done in the day, like at least you come home to like a really nice clean bed, right?
Yeah.
Um, it is a book, interesting. So I will write that down in the book recommendations notes here. Um, Thank you. Another one, Jenna, that I'm reading right now. It's called Rest by Alex Sujung Kim Pong. I think that I said
Yeah.
his name right. He just put out the paperback of that. I think this week, or something. I mentioned it in a blog post that I just put up on our site today. But it's excellent. A lot of really interesting resources and research on, like what you were saying with the Pomodoro technique, much more intentional, structured rest and work. The way that you kind of break
Mhm.
your day up, and how that actually really influences the creative rhythm and the creative process. Um,
Yes.
so he brings up in there how that famous study about the 10,000 hours, where it's like, oh, it takes 10,000 hours to get really good at something. He brings
Mhm.
up how it's that same study that was done that information came from, also essentially deduced that it's not just that, but it's also like 30,000 hours of sleep and 12,000 hours of play or rest or something.
Yeah, and that's just like that just blows my mind because obviously that would have to come hand in hand and it's something that you don't even think about. Like I think also being entrepreneurs, we're like we have to it's all about like hustling and
Yeah.
grinding and that's what it's all about, which I love. I love to work like all night.
Right.
Um, but we have to have some of that like structured downtime. And
Right.
that's kind of what's good about I've got to get that rest book definitely. Um, but that's what's good about Pomodoro technique is like
Yep.
I know like if I just I mean the other hard part is we're working when we're on social media,
Yeah.
but that can slowly just creep into like goofing off on social media
Yep.
also. So and then I'll see like a video that like a TED talk that was really cool that somebody shared and then I'm like way off track.
Right.
So but having that like rest time of Pomodoro technique is
Right.
like, okay, well, if I want to listen to that, I'll just listen to it when it's my break time next,
Right.
So that kind of helps to keep, to, I
Well, it
maximize
makes
my
space
time at
for it.
work.
And,
Yes.
and Julia
Yeah.
Cameron talks about that a lot in The Artist Way.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
making space for your artist. Like there have been plenty of times, like I actually have started noticing it when I'm doing a lot of business work stuff. If I'm doing it for like really really intense long periods of time, like accounting or cold calling or emailing or trying to like land deals or whatever,
Hmm.
if I do that too much, like I'll just start doodling, I'll start checking out, like and it's usually
Yeah.
about 90 minutes or so. Um,
Yeah.
and so same with like TED Talks and whatever. It's really fascinating, the science behind a lot of it. We're obviously trying kind of an interesting thing here on Facebook, because there's not a lot of people that'll sit and watch long form content on Facebook for a long period of time. So I'm kind of trying to mess with the model here and see how it goes. But you usually start checking out after a certain amount of time. So if you have space created for you to do that, even if it's, you know that you got to be at your computer working on something for 2 hours, even if it's just having a notebook next to you for you to doodle for a few minutes or something, or go take a walk for 10 or 15 minutes, like it makes a world of difference. And I mean, this doesn't sound like rocket science, but especially if you're like even working in an office all day or something, like make it a point, go outside on your breaks. Like don't just browse on social media or something. Like go read a book or go take a walk or go like get some fresh air, run around the block a few times. Like you'll actually come back and your work, not only will the quality of it improve, but you'll be able to do it faster because you're not so wound up and so super focused.
That is such a good point. You're maximizing your work time, and
right.
it helps me focus so much more too. Walking is a really good idea. I need to be walking. I need to get outside.
we all do. And you know, just a quick thing that you might want to check out, and for those of you who it's like, you know, in your head what you want to be doing every day.
Yes.
An excellent app, especially if you're into games and stuff, is called Habitica. And so that's Habitica. So if somebody's watching and wants to drop the link in the comments, that'd be awesome. It's kind of like a little mini gamify your life app where as you kind of hit your real life goals, you unlock like, you know, different creatures and things and different clothing and outfits and stuff. So if you grew up playing video games like so many of us did, like it's a really cool way to kind of gamify your life. But also you get to see the actual progress in the digital that you're making in the real world. And so it's really good for things that you know that you want to be doing every day. So they have like different columns set up where you have your habits that you're working on forming, because so much of what we do is habit anyway. So it's like, if you know what those habits are, you can write them down and make sure to tick them off every day. And then there's just like kind of a general to-do list thing that you can break down. And so it's really useful. So you might be interested in checking that out.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned that to me before, and I signed up and I didn't stick with it. So
and that's the thing.
Get back into it again.
Well, that's the thing with so much of it is it's all about testing. It's all about seeing what works for you. Like I use a combination of Habitica and Trello for my to-do lists and stuff. And Trello has been really, really awesome for helping to organize the myriad of ideas and projects and things like that. And also for creating templates for things that I have to do over and over again, kind of like you mentioned before. Another really good book on that topic is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Comes very highly recommended by Tim Ferriss and a lot of other people kind of in the business world. But he talks a lot about systems thinking, and thinking in the sense of like, how do you structure your business to function more like an assembly line so that you can focus on what you're good at. So maybe you're good at customer service, maybe you're good at connecting with your audience. So you want to maximize what you're good at and make sure that everything else as much as possible is systematized in the background. So like for us right now, if you go to my website, reformdesigns.biz, you can book an appointment with me directly. You can send us a contact form thing that basically goes to a database and tells me everything I need to know about your projects and whatever it is that you're wanting to build. And that's running in the background. Like I don't have to deal with, worrying about like answering the phone or something, because most of my stuff comes through the web. And so it's like those systems are just running in the background, but you build them once, and then after that, all you have to do is maintain and manage them. And so that mindset has helped immensely in terms of kind of figuring out better ways to structure things. Glenn Morshower has joined. Hello there, sir. Glenn Morshower is, for those of you who don't know, then why not? Glenn has been on 24. He was also General Morshower in Transformers, and he's an awesome dude. So, Glenn, I would love to have you on the show sometime. So if you're still watching, here's the invitation. So, anyway, let's move on a little bit here to the different selling platforms. I don't know how much more time you've got.
I could go, for a long time.
Okay.
So you probably have to tell me when you're ready to quit talking
Okay.
about business, because
Okay.
I could talk about business all the time.
All right. Well, I don't. I mean, we can also schedule another one too,
Oh yeah,
because we've been
definitely.
going now here for over
Oh
about an
yeah, I
hour and
didn't
10 minutes.
realize how long it had been.
But it's been fun. So let's talk a little bit though about how you built your own website. So you started with Etsy, and then you decided to move on, and kind of you got successful enough where it was like, all right, how do I take this to the next level? So you got your logo, you got that stuff sorted out, and then decided like, okay, let's do
Yes.
this on my own. Like, what did that look like?
So I started off on WordPress,
Okay.
and I had WordPress for a number of years. I only just started using Shopify. Um, I haven't even been using Shopify for a year yet. It was probably like July or August last year I started using Shopify, and I wish I would have done it so much sooner. I probably sound like a total Shopify pusher
No, you
because
actually
I'm
convinced me
all
to
about
go to
it.
Shopify. You actually
I
convinced me to go.
Yes, that's so exciting. I know we talked about it. Like because it's kind of hard to swallow the monthly fee if you're not really
Right.
sure what you want to be doing, or you're
Sure.
not really sure if you're going to be selling on it.
Well, were you doing
Um,
What were you doing before Shopify? I know you said you were using WordPress. Were you using like WooCommerce or something?
yeah, so remember how I said like I like to try out pretty much everything.
Sure.
So
We're the same way.
I had a couple different things that I tried to use, and I didn't want to take time of like importing each individual thing. So for probably like 3 or 4 years, I used that. I don't remember what it's called, but it's that WordPress plugin for Etsy. So I would have to look
Okay.
it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But it basically just replicates. It just pulls the data and the listings from Etsy and puts them on your website, and it makes it really cool because a lot of other ones you actually click on the item and it takes you straight to Etsy. But with this plugin, you could add things to your cart. You could click on them and expand the descriptions, and it would still keep you on my website.
Right.
And then you add them to your cart, and then finally, once you were done and you went to check out, then it would redirect you to Etsy.
Okay.
So I'll have to find it, and then you can put it with the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
notes from
That'd
the
be great.
show. Um, Let me write that down so I don't forget. But
Okay.
is some plugin for WordPress. But so I learned a lot about WordPress. I used that was the main thing that I used. So I didn't actually list my individual items myself on my WordPress at all. I liked it. I liked using like it's pretty easy, like drag and drop, and
Sure.
all the different plugins that you could use, and the different widgets and things, like learning about like the layout, and it just made it very easy. But Shopify is even better. I
Yeah.
love Shopify. It makes it so easy. And there's actually a really simple way that you can import. You just have to download your Etsy listings into like a CSV file and then upload it to Shopify. It makes it really super easy. Um,
A CSV file is like an Excel spreadsheet for those of you who don't know.
Yes, yeah. So you just download the Excel file, and then it's really easy. You just download all your data on Etsy and then upload it to Shopify. But manually, you have to go through and make sure that the listings look right.
Right.
But that was kind of an easy fix to get me
Well, yeah, and
started.
then I mean, you do it once, and then it's done, basically.
Yes, yeah. But then if you change a lot on your Etsy and you want it to be exactly the same as your Shopify, you have to do it all over again.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to keep up on the different platforms.
Yep.
So right now I'm just manually updating everything. Like if I put something on Etsy, then I just manually put it on Shopify, manually put it on Amazon.
Right.
So it's a little bit of extra work, but
So how much time would you say that you spend? So obviously you're not doing the 40-hour work week. So what? Just
way more.
a rough estimate. Yeah,
Way
yeah. So
more than
that's
40
the thing. What would you estimate in terms of how much time you put into this every week?
My website specifically, or
No.
online work specifically?
Just like in terms of like if somebody asked you at any point throughout the week, like, are you working right now? Like,
Yes.
Right?
Because I don't know what, it's in a book somewhere, but I don't know where it is, but I wish I could remember what book it was, but it was like differences of the male and female psyche, and like, how, I can't remember, maybe somebody who's watching would know, but um, it's some kind of business book where he talked about like his wife. This is kind of like a difference between male and females in working. Also, is that his wife would not bill for when she was thinking about work,
Right.
and he would bill a
Right.
client for when he was just even thinking about it, even if he wasn't actually physically
Right.
typing or working or doing something. If he was using his brain power on it, he would bill that client for it. And I
Interesting.
think that's kind of how I view my work, because I'm almost always thinking about my business. We're
Sure.
talking about my business. Um,
Well, you
and
have to be. I mean, especially when you get started, what's the old joke? Like when you're the CEO, especially when you start, you're also the janitor, the accountant, the sales
oh yeah.
guy. It's like you have to wear all those hats. Another on that note, a software that you might be interested in is it's called 17hats.com.
I've heard of that.
It's
I don't
not
know much about it. I've just seen it.
It's especially for people who are just getting started and like don't know anything about. I'm gonna write that down here too. Um, who don't know anything about like invoicing and just all of that stuff. It's definitely one that I would recommend checking out. We used it for a little while and it just wasn't quite for us because we've already developed a lot of our own systems that work the way that we need them to. But it's really, really great at kind of giving you a broad overview of all of that stuff, especially if you're like invoicing clients for consulting or services or something like that.
That's awesome.
So
I'll check it out.
and it actually helps you with tax time too and whatever. Like it helps you keep track of your expenses and all that stuff, so you can run reports at the end of the
Oh,
year
that's
and
interesting.
whatever. So
I use GoDaddy bookkeeping is what I
oh,
use.
interesting.
I love GoDaddy bookkeeping. So
Interesting.
it has nothing to do with GoDaddy, because people get confused about that. Like think I'm talking about like something else having to do with like website
Sure.
development or buying domains or something, but it's just that GoDaddy owns it, and it used to be called Outright, actually, was the software when I first started using it, and then
Interesting.
GoDaddy bought it. So that's what I really like a lot.
Okay.
So anyway,
Fascinating.
I just wanted to throw that in there. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
use for
That's
my
Let me write that
bookkeeping.
down too, since we mentioned it here. Um, cool. Well, so that's good about the Shopify thing. I mean, I've run into the same thing with our stuff. Like we had a store for a while. We were doing WordPress and just constantly having to update it and whatever. And then decided to at least do the free trial of Shopify and really have liked it so far. And so it's been it's a lot of work, but once it's up, like it looks good, it works really easily, and people kind of expect a lot of that structure
Hmm.
on shopping sites. So
I think it's actually easier. It's like less of a learning curve, I think, on Shopify than it was for me on WordPress. But
right,
it may help just that I had the experience with WordPress
sure.
then, so I can kind of
Well, they
it's
also
kind of
have.
like similar layout, I guess.
I think that the nice thing with Shopify that you get is they hold your hand through the process a lot more.
Oh yeah.
They've designed it in a way where it's definitely created with just general business owner in mind. You don't
Yeah.
have to know a lot about programming or coding. And I mean, knowing that stuff helps, especially like if you're wanting to really optimize your store and make it look good. Um, and if you need help with that, you can contact us at rdshop.biz. See,
Awesome.
smooth, right?
Yep.
Um, always be closing. So, on that note, though, I'm curious what your experience has been like with Amazon. It's not something that I've done. I've thought about it. I know a lot of people, and a lot of our friends are selling products on there, and some of them are making really nice living for themselves. So on all your platforms, your online store, Etsy, and then Amazon. Is that all three? You're in basically three
Yes.
places,
Yeah, I've got three right now, and I don't think I would want to do any more
right? So what?
unless something like earth shattering came along to rival Etsy,
Right.
probably.
So
Um,
what would you say has been the most beneficial for you and why?
right now, well, I kind of have like different, like a weird different loves for Etsy and Amazon for different reasons.
Okay. So
So
what is that?
Etsy because that's how I got my start, and it really opened my eyes up till I can do this and make a living. And they have a lot of really cool seller resources um, that really helped me out when I was first getting started and was encouraging to me. So that's kind of, I feel like that's my roots,
Right.
is selling on Etsy. But right now, I'm not selling a ton on Etsy. I'm not really putting a focus on it. So that's kind of on me. I'm not renewing my items like we talked about earlier. I'm not renewing as much as I should.
Right.
I'm not changing my SEO as much as I should, because I should really be updating with some seasonal stuff and some
Sure.
sales and things. So I'm not really using it to the best that I could be using it right now. So it's kind of on me. But I've been putting a much bigger focus on Amazon, handmade specifically. So if anybody's watching this that's familiar with Amazon, like Amazon Handmade is the same exact marketplace, but it just has different requirements for being in that category. But you don't
Right.
go to a specific. That's like usually the first question is people ask, is
Right.
it a different website? It's the same website as Amazon.
It's kind of like, it's basically like different branding.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Same Amazon, you can search on Amazon and my stuff will come up. It's the same way, but to be approved for Amazon Handmade and to take advantage of the Amazon Handmade program, I guess, you have to apply a little bit differently than being a regular, like classic Amazon seller. So that's a little bit different. But Amazon right now is like, I cannot say enough good things about Amazon. I know that like some people hate Amazon.
You put a duck like.
Yeah, it's like this big. I'm in so many like different groups that talk about online selling and handmade stuff, and people get like so upset about
Sure.
like the big box store type of ideas of Amazon, and if you're on Amazon, you're selling out, and it's not truly made, and you're mass producing your items and whatever. Right. And people get upset about Etsy. It's like they get so mad at these platforms, but they're a business. They're trying. I mean, they have to make money.
Sure.
That's the whole reason they're there. It's not just like, oh, they're just looking out for sellers all the time. Like, obviously they want us to sell more because then they make more.
Right.
But so anyway, I just have like no patience for anybody who complains about selling platforms at all, because I love selling online. So that's just what I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
So specifics about Amazon though is, my Amazon sales have just been completely amazing. And that's going to be my focus probably for the rest of the year, is
interesting,
heavily focused on Amazon, because I feel like with my website and with Etsy, I have to drive a lot of the traffic there. Yeah. And with Amazon, the traffic is built in. There's millions of people that are shopping. The amount of eyeballs that you have looking at your products is just astronomical. And
are you able to see that too?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And you're able to create ad campaigns, and there's so many different ways that I could be using it also.
Sure.
There's like pay-per-click ad campaigns, and I can put my stuff on sale also, and you can see like who's viewing, but how many.
Sure.
And you can even do surveys also, which costs money to do, but you could do like a product survey of showing customers your products and why they liked it or they didn't like it. You can create survey questions.
Right.
But that also costs money too.
Right.
So I haven't done that yet, but I'd like to kind of get into the survey game a little bit. Because it'll say like, what did you buy this? What did you buy this purchase for? Was it for a gift? Was it for yourself? Was it for a special occasion? And that will kind of help you create keywords based around those products.
Right. So, it helps you with your market research and getting more of an understanding of the people who are already looking for the stuff that you have. And so you're just making it easier for the people who are looking for you to find you.
The capabilities of, like you're saying, that market research, the capabilities of Amazon is just amazing, completely amazing. So their reporting that they have, I have these like little instructions written down for myself so I can remember how to get to reports that I've found, because it's not very user friendly, and you feel like you're
I'm
using it
shocked,
like
Jenna. I'm shocked.
you feel like
I'm
you're
not
using,
shocked.
not that I'm complaining about Amazon because I love Amazon, but they could really do with some like
Design.
yes, yeah, the design is horrible. It feels like um you're like transported like several years back and you're using like an old computer
You
system. It's
probably
very
are.
strange.
I mean, that's probably what it boils down to. There's probably
Yeah.
so many people who it's like they've gotten used to the. It's like people who are still using like Windows 95. It's like this is. I know you
Yeah.
know how to use it, but it's you probably should upgrade it, kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of what Amazon looks like on the inside. Is it doesn't look very modern, but the reporting capabilities are absolutely amazing, and they also let you know when you need to restock. Like there'll be these restock notifications, so it'll say
So
like
you have to ship your stuff to their warehouses, and basically it tracks your inventory for you.
yes, yeah, and so and they'll have inventory planning like estimates of within the next 30 days you're expected to sell 17 of these, so you should send in
Right.
17 of these now so
Oh,
that
okay.
you're prepared.
That's
So
interesting.
that's so it does some inventory forecasting for you.
Hmm. Like
So I don't
based on the data of your sales and stuff like that over time.
yeah, yeah, it's great. So it gives you like these inventory alerts basically of what you should be planning for within the next 30 days or 60 days. So it kind of gives me a heads up of, okay, I need to have more of these raw materials and then I need to be making this stuff based on your past sales performance.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I really love about it.
Right.
So one thing that you kind of brought up was the sending stuff into Amazon. So that's a key part of it is the difference between FBA and FBM,
Mm-hmm.
which FBA is fulfillment by Amazon, and then FBM is fulfillment by merchant, which would be me or you
Sure.
or
And
whoever's
that
watching.
means that you're going to the post office 17 times a day and
Yeah,
packaging
that
or
means and
been
FBM
there.
with Amazon is really, really, really hard to do.
Yep. Done it. It's hard.
Especially being, yeah. Have you done that? You have experience with that?
Not at a very high level, but I was doing for a while. Like I had a whole bunch of books that I just was not going to read again, and I'm like over 100 or so, and so I listed all of
Wow.
them, and I sold most of them, but I was like, oh, I can make some extra cash doing this, and the amount of time and energy I spent like packaging books and going to the post
Yeah.
office and printing shipping labels, all that stuff. I'm like, this is not the smart way to do this.
Yeah,
So
it's difficult, especially when you're working with Amazon and when people are buying on Amazon, they expect it right away,
yeah,
and that's that's part of the problem. Like to be able to, so being a handmade person,
right.
I'd say to anybody else wanting to do handmade, you can certainly do fulfillment by merchant and set up your shipping times of like, or your production time, I guess I should say, like, if somebody wanted to, if I wanted to do fulfillment by merchant and somebody wanted to have like a personalized necklace,
Right.
then I could say my production time on this is 1 week and then shipping time is 3 to 5 days. Well,
Right.
not a lot of people shopping on Amazon. I mean, there is a market for it.
Sure, but it's not. Well, that's been one of my concerns is that
Yeah.
the products that we do, like I can order a bunch of them and ship them to Amazon's warehouse and let people get them right away, but that means that I have to front a bunch of cash to do that and to
Yeah.
store it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like the print on demand model. But that is a downside. It's like I know a lot of people, even when I'm shopping, it's like I'll filter it out if I can't get it quickly. And Brent said, "What are the fees and costs for having a shop on Amazon?"
That is a very good question. So I actually have on my website that link that I gave you that it's jennascifres.com
Yep, that
slash
is. Whoop.
pages.
Oh, right there. So is it easy to find on your site?
Um,
Let me see.
yeah, it's slash pages
Okay.
slash resources.
Cipher.
That's actually the only thing I like. So when you're on WordPress, you can just create a slash and then what you want.
Right.
But on Shopify, you have to create, it's automatically pages in the URL. And
I
then,
posted it in the comments here. So
okay, perfect. So right there on that resources page, I have like Amazon affiliate links first of like different things I use for my business, like my printer and the lights that I use when I do my live sales and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of different things there.
Yep.
But underneath that, the very, 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 very last thing at the very end of the page is a fee calculator for different platforms.
Oh, excellent.
So it's really kind of confusing when you talk about the fees for Amazon, because the FBA versus FBM is quite a bit different.
Sure.
So you definitely have to be ready to incorporate or absorb that cost.
Right. So if someone was just getting started and wanted to run a test for like 6 months for Amazon, like how much would you recommend like saving up or having to be able to at least get started on that? Because I know for Shopify, like for us, I think it was like $320 or $350 for the year. We were like, all right, we like this platform enough, we're going to give it a shot, and so that's what we did.
When you're doing Amazon, if you're doing Amazon handmade, the fees are waived for this like actual monthly subscription fee. So like the last like 3 years, they keep saying we're going to have fees next year, we're going to have fees next year, we're going to have fees next year, and that's never happened. So I don't know if they will ever.
Probably once more people do it.
So right now they're not going to have fees until the end of 2018. Now they
Can you sell digital products or like manufactured products on that, or is it?
I don't know if that would be, if you'd be able to do it. If you're doing like third-party manufacturing on the handmade side.
Sure.
But the regular side of Amazon, I think it's either $35 or $39 a month to be able to sell. But there's some categories you have to apply to, like fine jewelry is one that everybody talks about. The fine jewelry category has an application fee, and it's like a non-refundable application fee. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I saw people, so I don't know that this is fact. Sure. I don't want to be repeating the wrong information. So disclaimer, I don't know. But I've seen people talk about it in a Facebook group that it was a $5,000 application fee.
Wow.
For fine jewelry. Yeah, so if you're selling like diamond engagement rings and sapphires and emeralds and like benchwork jewelry.
I guess they assume you have the money to spare.
I think that, it's because they're like high ticket, high dollar items. So on the handmade side, you can still sell fine jewelry, but you don't have as many of the options, I guess, for promoting and pay-per-click and different things that the like other side of Amazon has. So for now, there's no subscription, there's no application fee, it's all free, but they just take a cut. So you wouldn't have to plan out like for the next 6 months, you need to have this much money available to do it, but you would have to incorporate that into your pricing, where I'd say about 15 to 20%, you want to understand you're not going to be made, that's going to need to come right off the top, like about approximately 15 to 20%.
Right, and then on top of that is the taxes you have to pay.
Yeah.
And the time that you put into doing it. So when it comes down to pricing, especially if you're doing your own thing, like you're the one who has to figure that stuff out, and it's always a process.
Oh, definitely. And I was very underpriced in the beginning because you feel like you have to be competitive to these other people.
Right.
And eventually it's like, I know my quality, I know my craftsmanship.
Right.
I know that I'm worth this much money because it may seem like too much when you just think about your raw materials, but it's all the time developing these products, taking the photos, writing the descriptions, researching the SEO.
Yep.
All these fees that are...
Well, it's the cost of running a business.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
And I think a lot of handmade people don't think about that. No. All the overhead costs that you don't see that in that specific item.
Right.
But it's everything that you're doing to run your business.
Well, I mean, and it's rampant in the design world, and I'm sure it's rampant in the just general product world too, where it's like, people are like, oh, well, this only took you half an hour to make this. It's like, well, it's taken me 20 years to make this that quickly. Like,
exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's all your training and your blood, sweat, and tears for the last decade
We have them in
more.
vials. We have one marked blood, one marked sweat, and one marked tears. And it's just
Yes,
it's in the closet
exactly.
back here.
That's gonna be really difficult. Something that I haven't really thought about is for a design person, when you don't have a physical product,
Hmm.
then it's even harder to, explain that.
Oh yeah.
Um, and really figure
Nicole
it
said
out.
this has been great. I'm inspired. Have a great night. Thanks for watching, Nicole.
Yay, you
Take it easy.
too.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I was just gonna say it's and when you're getting into retail, I mean, this is a whole other.
Sure.
We could do like a whole other video on selling to like boutiques and retailers and selling wholesale.
Yeah.
When you're setting wholesale prices, I don't know if most people realize this, but when you're selling wholesale, the people buying for you are not going to pay more than 50% of the end product.
Right.
So if they're selling a necklace of mine for $50 and that's the retail price, they're not going to pay me more than $25 for it.
Right.
That's the standard
Wow.
rate. So I have to work out, you have to, we were talking earlier, like before the video got started, the perceived value of something. And you have to work out like basically I have to buy in like huge bulk of raw materials to be able to get my pricing down for my materials to
Right.
make it profitable for me at a wholesale price, which is really hard to do.
Right.
And jewelry is so saturated, so
Sure.
that's just another
Well,
aspect of it.
well, on that note, I think this is a good segue, and then we can start wrapping up. We've been on here
Okay.
for about 90 minutes or so.
Yes. Sorry, I
Oh
like
no,
to
no, no!
talk.
I block out at least 90 minutes
Okay,
because I
good.
think that's a good it's a good place to kind of have in mind to shoot for. I think it gives you opportunity to expand, and I mean we've done longer, but I try to keep it 90 minutes to 3 hours or to 2 hours. And so as a segue, you mentioned how jewelry is so saturated.
Mm-hmm.
How have you gone about uh, getting your hands in or getting your products in the hands of influencers, getting your hands in the products? How have you gone about getting your products in the hands of influencers and done things that are more outside the box? And because you have to think that way, you have to think like, how am I going to show up in a way that people pay attention in a market that there's a lot of people. Like for me, us doing this, like that, this is me doing that, like me doing this stuff in a digital set and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of having fun with it or whatever. Like that's how I'm trying to bridge the gap in my industry because it's so super saturated with people paying $5 for a logo or something, and it's like that's not, those people aren't my customers, and I know that.
Yeah.
But for you, how have you gone about doing that? I know you've mentioned that some of your stuff has been featured on some different shows and things. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's well, one thing that I actually want to do more of is work with Instagram influencers. So I have some ideas I've written out about like reaching out to. um, I've got just over 2,000 followers on Instagram. So my what I would be looking for as far as influencers is somebody that's like a beauty blogger,
Mm-hmm.
or even someone doing like makeup, or fashion reviews or something like that, that maybe isn't directly tied in with jewelry, but they might have the same target market that I do.
Sure.
So I'd say probably like, so my idea is, this is something I haven't done yet, and then I'll go into what I've already done. So something that I'm planning on doing is reaching out to people that have between 2,000 and 5,000 followers. So maybe around me, but maybe a little bit more than
Sure.
me.
It's a good idea.
And giving them free jewelry. So I don't have any plans to go after like somebody that has like 500,000 followers.
Right.
So somebody that's about the same level of followers as me, and has good interaction. Maybe somebody that's not even a blogger, but that just has a lot of followers and has a cool Instagram, or they travel or whatever. So that's my plan for this year, later in the year, to get my items to those types of accounts or people. So that's something that I'm planning on doing. But what I've done in the past and currently doing is I work with a PR company called the Artisan Group, and they are a PR company. I don't know how to describe
Sure.
it. They work with the Artisan Group works with other handmade people, so it's not just jewelry. It ends up being a lot of jewelry people because that's what's popular and most prominent on TV shows.
Sure.
But then they also do bath beauty products, purses, scarves, even pet accessories, things like that. So they actually work with stylists and costume designers of movies, TV
Okay.
shows, different things going on with the film industry, and they work with these stylists and designers to find out what they need for a specific show, and then they let us know. It's a whole bunch of people. I don't even know how many members there are. There's probably, I'd say, over 1,000. I don't know for sure how many there are, but potentially over 1,000. And then we say if we think our jewelry would be a good fit for it, and we get matched up with these TV shows. So, so far my jewelry has been on Arrow and the Fosters.
Oh, cool.
And then I've sent a bunch more to shows that haven't happened yet. But I guess my main point is I don't make money. I actually have to pay to be involved in these things, and then I have to give my jewelry away for free. But it's worth it to me. I'd say if other people were looking to do that, to be very selective and to make sure that they were going to, well-known production, or that they were working with a PR company that knew what they were doing and was involved in, these legitimate opportunities.
Right.
And then, don't just do something for the sake of exposure and then not really get exposure from it. But something that I can do with the Artisan Group is, even if my jewelry isn't selected for a show, I can still hype it up a little bit with my followers and say, oh, this is a necklace that I sent in to the TV show Arrow. It has the potential of being watched.
Right, because then your fans get to go on the journey with you, and they get to celebrate the wins with you when it happens.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Yes. So one thing that I've done in the past too is I have said, like, if you spot it and you tell me before I see it, you can get a free one of the exact one.
That's great.
An exact replica of what was worn on the show. So if you tell me before I announce it, then you get a free one. So that's kind of been fun.
So do they let you know when it gets picked, or do you just kind of have to watch?
So it depends on the TV show and the costume designer or stylist that we're working with. Some of them are really very active on social media, and they'll post stories on Instagram, and they've got wardrobe, one show that's really well known for doing a lot of behind the scenes wardrobe stuff is actually The Voice. Sure. And so I watch The Voice Instagram all the time to be on the lookout, because I sent them a ring, which hasn't been worn on The Voice yet, but so they don't always know, because with the Artisan Group, there's so many different artists and designers that have sent in that they may not know the exact person that it was sent from, but they know it was sent from the Artisan Group. So I might not be personally notified, but then the PR company would be notified, and then they could let me know. So, which has happened on Arrow and the Fosters.
Interesting.
But then I also just keep an eye out. So I watch Netflix on my phone a lot when I'm working, and kind of try to keep an eye on the screen, but also make my jewelry, if I'm looking for something specific.
Right. That's funny. Well, very cool. Well, I think that's pretty much all I had, unless there was anything else that you wanted to mention. But we can, if there's anybody still watching, if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them, and I will see them here. Did you have anything else that you wanted to specifically talk about?
I guess really quickly, just in case anyone was interested in the Etsy specific stuff, there was an announcement that they made that you can probably find in the Etsy forums, where they're raising their fees. but it's only like 1.5%. So their transaction fees previously were 3.5% per transaction. And now they're going to be 5% per transaction.
Really?
And
Interesting.
they used to, which Amazon's like 15, so it's not like it's that huge of a difference. And then they're going to be applying that fee to shipping, which they didn't used to include that. So a lot of people are like up in arms about this shipping situation. And then the other thing that's kind of really the really big thing that I thought was they're going to actually offer an advanced Etsy, like an Etsy Plus, that has a subscription cost with it. And that will be rolling out in July. So they didn't say what that's going to be or how they're going to do it, but they said it would be more advanced training and more advanced features for sellers with the Etsy Plus. So that was something they just announced at like 7 a.m. today.
I have a feeling that the community will not be happy about this.
Oh, there's been people complaining already.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
Brent asked, we got 2 questions that came in.
Okay. Yay, questions.
So we actually have, there's been several people. I got to add them to the list. So Kyle.
Oh, are you keeping track for me?
I am.
For a winner? Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. So Kyle said, Brent said, what would you recommend to someone who's thinking about starting jewelry making, tips and tricks, where and how to start? And
so that's another thing that could totally be another video even. But what I would recommend
if someone asked you that question in an elevator.
Yeah, I know. I gotta be like short with my answers. There's a website that I would recommend. It's called Beaducation.
Beaducation?
Bead, like the word bead, yeah, okay. And then education. So Beaducation, like jewelry beads. Beaducation is that's like my easy, quick answer because they are a supplier that I also use. So I'm kind of giving away like a little bit of a secret here. I'm giving away one of my suppliers.
Well, we're like an hour and 46 minutes in. So if people have waited that long,
if anybody's listened this long, they deserve a little nugget.
Thank you.
So Beaducation is nice because they actually have a really good business model where they're selling the products, the like raw materials, and then they have a ton of tutorials.
Very cool.
So they show you how to use their products, how to use their tools. So that would be my quick, easy answer.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Kyle said, I missed part of this, so you may have answered this, but why did you make the switch? What inspired you to go full time? How did making that decision feel? There's so much talk about going all in, but that all in moment is terrifying, right? How did that feel for you?
So it took me forever to make that decision. Yeah. I should have made that decision a long time before I did. Okay. And I had, so I feel great about it. I feel amazing about it. But I felt sick about it leading up to that point. And, people in my family especially were like, what are you doing? You have a human resources career. You have like this corporate office career.
You have benefits, Jenna. You have benefits.
Yeah, and benefits. Everybody talks about benefits all the time. Benefits.
Golden handcuffs, man.
Yeah, everybody talks about benefits. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I don't want to give anybody the wrong advice, and I don't have children.
This is not professional advice. Yes. Talk to lawyers, disclaimer, etc. So forth.
I don't have children either, so I could imagine if you have kids, that would be a huge decision. You're responsible for another human being, But for me, I'm only responsible for my own health insurance and myself. But you have to be ready to make that jump, but it doesn't have to be a jump. So for me, that's actually a really, really good question, Kyle, because I transitioned slowly and it was so hard for me to like finally cut the cord because what happened was I feel like I took a jump because I wrote So I made this plan like 6 months leading up to it. Like if I was making X amount of money, I knew that I could quit my job.
Right.
So I knew I had to make so much per day, so much per week, so much per month. Like I had all these different figures. Like this is where the sweet spot is, but this is like my absolute minimum
Right.
bottom of I can barely survive.
Right.
So
So you took the time to figure out what those numbers were,
yep.
and yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. So you took the time to figure out what those numbers were, and then basically worked backwards from that.
Yes. So I knew like if I had this much saved up, that could be my emergency fund. I need to
Right.
be consistently making this amount of sales, on an average basis because it goes up and down throughout the year.
Yeah.
And then I knew like I also knew I could like fall back on like something like violin lessons where I knew I could make money and still work at the music store if I needed to. So that was kind of in the back of my mind, like as like emergency escape plan. But I also wrote my letter of resignation, and I had my letter of resignation for like more than 6 months, and I kept changing the date on it. Like I kept thinking, I'm going to give this letter, I'm going to give this letter, I'm going to give this letter. And my fiance now is my boyfriend at the time, but we're engaged now. But he was like, "When are you going to do this?" Like at first he was a little hesitant, and then I mean, he's always been a big supporter of me, but he was like,
"That's great.
When are you going to do this?" So also another aspect of that is we didn't live together at the time. So it was like, if I fail at this, like I'm on my own. There's no like second income. There's no, there's no real safety net for me. Anyway, so that was just all this was weighing on my mind. That's why I just felt sick about it.
Right.
But I had all these plans in place. I finally got to the point where I'm like, this is way overdue. So I quit. I turned in my resignation. My boss clearly thought I was losing my mind.
How long had you worked there before?
12 years.
Wow.
So
like, I'm out.
I could just tell that he was like, what? Like, I was even a team lead at one point in time in our human resources group, where I was like the lead of 6 other people. There's 7 people on our team. Like, so I was kind of in a position of authority, and I was just like, so I'm going to make jewelry now. But the craziest thing happened. Like, I didn't really feel like they really appreciated me or thought I was smart or whatever. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't feel like great about it. But something that really surprised me is, so we had our meeting, I quit, whatever, went back, I've got like 2 to 3 weeks we were talking about me staying on. And then he called me back in his office later that same day, and he said, how about we have you stay on as a consultant? So you work like full time for the next 3 weeks. We try to get a replacement for you, and then you can be like on call, or you can work 1 to 2 days a week, and we'll work out this structure.
Right.
So that actually, I was contemplating. I just remember absolutely freaking out. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, I wanted to jump all into this, which I always say, like, people talk about going all in, but I was like, maybe this wouldn't be such a bad thing.
Sure.
So I stayed on as a contract employee.
Interesting.
And for the next several months, it was probably about like 5 or 6 more months that I stayed on. And it got to the point where they kept asking me to come in. But I was so busy that I kept having to tell them no. And with all the money being taken out, like for my 401k and my health insurance and all this stuff, my checks were consistently like non-existent. They were like $10 or $15 a check, which was just like ridiculous, So I was working so little that I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm so stressed out. So at one point I had to go into work, and I kind of kept like hanging on to it. I'm sorry, this is really taking a long time.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. It's good.
So one point where I was like, this has got to stop. Like, I have to let go of this, because I also enjoyed HR a little bit too. So it's kind of hard to like abandon it completely, because it was something I enjoyed. But anyway, one thing that was really a turning point was I had to go into work to my HR job. And I had one of my contractors at home making jewelry to get my orders done. So my contractor was working at my house and I had to go into the HR job. And I was like, why do they get to stay and make jewelry? And I have to go do this HR job. This is getting to be ridiculous. So that was kind of something funny that happened. And I was like, okay, this is it. This has to stop.
So when you made that jump, it was like, okay, I'm all in. So did you feel relief?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to finally
Sure.
let go of being like a part-time contractor. I was working like
Sure.
one day a week or one day every other week. So I'd say if you can do that, like have a part-time job or have a contract type job where you've got like a little bit of money coming in each week or each month,
Right.
that's probably ideal. So my situation really worked out. I like gradually weaned off of having a day job. And
We did
that
not do that, and I would
yeah,
advise
what's
doing.
your story? Tell me how you made the jump.
I would not. We jumped without a parachute and learned
Oh
to
boy.
build one on the way down.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was, and I don't advise it. I really don't. And it's always a daily thing trying to figure out, how are we going to pivot in an environment where now it's not just, hey, reach your audience who's listening. Now it's like, how do I get around the algorithm so that the people who want to hear me actually will hear me?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting dance that you're always kind of evolving and learning how to do that. But I guess for us, a lot of it was I actually had a full-time job right after I got out of college. I graduated in December of 2006, and so got a full-time job. Had a company car, drove all over the East Coast, working in different retail stores, doing merchandising.
Wow, that's
And
cool.
merchandising is basically like you go into a store and you represent certain companies in the store. And it's like if you go in and the circular saws that the company manufactures, if it like is looking like a mess, you fix those instead of the competitors' ones, and then take pictures and send them to the manufacturer so they see the before and after.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did for over a year. But then I think it was like Christmas of 2007, we got a phone call where we thought it was going to be like, hey, we're all going to get together and talk about the new products coming out and find out when the the merchandisers are going to actually get to see each other, because we were all over the country. So I worked a lot by myself. I would have an iPod and like listen to podcasts and stuff. So it was a good gig. It was a good intro to entrepreneurship because it was very self-directed. But that phone call, instead of us being able to banter back and forth, we were all muted and nobody knew why. And
Oh, wow.
we found out on this phone call right around Christmas of 2007 that like 70% of the company was getting laid off or something crazy.
Oh my God.
And so I was only with the company like, a year or 8 months or 9 months, something. Some of these guys had worked for that company for like 30, 40 years, right?
Wow.
And some of them had big families and, so they've been around, they're getting paid well, it's a
Oh
good
my
thing.
gosh.
And so
Yeah.
probably people at the top probably knew the economy was about to tank. That's what I assume. I don't know. Because it was right before 2008. And so, but that was like right out of college for me. So I'm like, this is my first experience with the real working world, right?
Yeah.
And so
That just shows you there's no guarantees.
no,
Like,
none.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I had just gotten hired. I had moved from Pittsburgh to Syracuse, New York. I'd never lived away from home other than, in college I lived at my university, but had student loan debt, still have student loan debt. Don't borrow money for school, kids. It's a trap. And, it was one of those things where I'm like, I think I was up near the New York border, way upstate New York. It was like snowing. It was crazy, like outside. And it was like, you'll hear from your district manager if you have a job. So give them a call. And so I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh.
And
So your
so,
fate was like in someone
oh
else's
yeah,
hands.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that moment for me was like, I need to never have this happen again.
Mm.
I still had a job, so like, but for that first 15 minutes or something,
Panic,
it
right?
was sheer panic, and I had no cell
Yeah.
signal at the time. But what ended up happening, I had moved away from my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Moved away from my family. I didn't know anybody,
Oh,
and had signed a year lease and all this stuff. And they're like,
wow.
you have to, if you want to still have a job, you have to move to New York City. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm moving to New York City. And so I moved to like Rutherford, New Jersey or something, which was like 15 minutes away from the Lincoln Tunnel. Um, and I found out very quickly that like I think it was like 11.25 an hour or something. I'm like, you can't get by making
Yeah.
11.25 an hour living right outside New York City.
Oh my gosh.
And so I totally clueless about this, right? Because the internet wasn't the way it is now. You couldn't just look this stuff up,
Yeah.
at least not like you can now. So I ended up moving everything to New York City, having to break my lease with my landlord, and
Oh
all
my
that stuff.
gosh.
I'm not. Kyle said, "Don't hate on Jersey." I'm not hating on Jersey. I'm just saying the cost of living.
That's where Gary Vaynerchuk is from. We don't
Yeah,
hate.
yeah. I'm not hating on Jersey. It's just a really high cost of living, and I didn't know that going in. Um,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
ended up having to call my boss and saying like, I need a raise. And he's like, you just started, you can't get a raise. I'm like, you just moved me to New York, like I
yeah,
can't.
no kidding. Jeez.
And so it was for a different division of the company, and it was working for the Toys R Us division. So
Oh,
I don't know if
wow.
you've heard, but Toys R Us
Yeah.
is not doing great.
No more, right? I mean, is it Toys
Yeah,
R Us completely done?
if it is still around, it's I think on life support. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I think they completely shut down.
yeah, so I'm glad that I didn't hang my hat on that. Um,
Yeah, what if you would have stayed around there? My God.
no, and instead I hung my hat on my own business. So talk about branding, isn't that you know?
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect.
My face looks a
So
little
that's the
weird now
thing.
because of that.
That's like about what I was gonna say about like my dad specifically. I hope he wouldn't be if he's. I don't think he's gonna watch this anyway, but I hope he wouldn't be offended that I said this. But my dad was like really against me quitting my job,
Sure.
and I was like, there's no guarantees. People are laid off all the time.
Yep.
Like I went through 3 or 4 different mergers with the company over the 12 years I was with them.
Right.
So they were constantly being sold and bought and all this stuff happening.
Have you seen
And
Office
there's
Space?
yes,
It's
yeah.
kind of. It really is kind of like that.
Yes, it's so true. So it's like there's no guarantees in a corporate world. You're either building your own empire or you're working for someone else that's building theirs. Like
Yep.
I just think people think like, oh, there's so much security in working for someone else. There's not at all.
No.
So
My job security now comes from knowing that I know how to create money out of nothing.
exactly. It's your own brain and your own skills and
Right.
you can go anywhere.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of flips the whole model on its head in a way where it's like you have to put yourself in a space where you're willing to do the personal and professional development required to figure this stuff out. But once you make that decision, it's like it compounds. Like the effect of learning all the skills required, like you just get better every day.
Yeah.
And there's an infinite room for growth because you're not trying to compete with some other market. Like even the fact that you're doing jewelry, yeah, I mean it's a saturated market, but it's yours. Like you're
Yeah.
not buying stuff from somewhere else and reselling it. You're
Mhm.
creating something that's never existed before. And there's an excellent book on this. Actually, two really good ones. One of them is called The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And I'll write
I
that.
don't know that one, so that sounds
Um,
good.
the Purple Cow by Seth Godin and The Blue Ocean Strategy is another one. And I don't know the authors of that one. I don't know their name off the top of my head. But basically, Purple Cow talks about how, like, if you were driving down the road and you'd never seen cows before on the side of the road, like, the first time you see them, you're going to pull over and you're going to stop. You might take some pictures and be like, hey, look, what are these? I've never seen cows before, right? But you're just going to do it once. Like, if you get back in the car and see cows again further down the road, you're not going to stop again. However, if you saw a purple cow, despite the fact that you've seen cows before, the fact that you're now seeing something familiar in an unfamiliar way, you're at least going to stop. And Brent has put the link there, so thank you,
Perfect.
sir.
He's so good about those.
Yeah, we have a joke that he's like our guy in the chair. I don't know if you've seen the new Spider-Man movie.
No, I haven't.
It's like you've always got like the guy in the chair who's doing all the tech stuff, and there's the Blue Ocean strategy.
Oh,
awesome.
okay, cool, awesome.
So, but yeah, those and then Blue Ocean strategy talks about the same basic concept where if you go into an existing market, the ocean's going to be red because there's all these big sharks who are just kind of, my cat wants out of the room right now. I don't know if you hear that. But if you go into a market that hasn't been created yet, like if you're creating your own products, let me let him out of the door.
Okay.
Go ahead, buddy. All right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But if you go into an existing market, like you're going to have to deal with competition. You're going to have to deal with people who have learned the lay of the land, and you're going to have a lot more struggle versus starting your own thing and building your own products and services that are uniquely yours. It takes longer, but basically you're creating a market. Like you're not competing for a slice of pie. You're basically building bakeries. Does that make sense?
That is such a good analogy. Good job on that one, because that's so true. Like I mean, there's items that I make that are very similar to other people.
Sure.
And there's even some stuff that I make that's more expensive than what other people make.
Right.
But I know that my materials are quality materials, and I know that I'm kind of creating, I don't buy a lot of like pre-made stuff. Like, I mean, I haven't even shown anything that I work on, but like, I could buy pre-made charms, but like, I make my own charms. I'm not sure if that shows up the right way or not, but that's
let me, I don't know if I can.
It just says Nana on it with like a little heart. So It could be backwards on the screen. I don't know, but my point is, like, I'm making my own charms. I'm buying blank pieces of metal. In some instances, I'm cutting it. Sometimes I buy it a certain shape, but I cut it myself. I give it texture.
Right.
I stamp it.
It's one of a kind.
I'm making my own charms rather than like going to Hobby Lobby and buying a charm, or going, wherever, Michael's or some other craft store, and buying a charm and just putting it on something.
Right.
So I think that kind of adds.
It adds a lot of value.
It adds so much more to it because it's made by me, by my own two hands, and I'm not using like a laser engraver, which I've struggled with because that would save me so much time. But when you're actually creating something, you're not just like putting stuff together. You're actually, I'm not just assembling pieces of jewelry. I'm actually creating some of these completely from raw metal.
Right.
So I think that is something to really consider, and that's something that sets me apart from a lot of other jewelry people. I'm not just putting a bead on a wire. I'm not just putting some stones together with some chain. I'm actually creating what people want, like as far as sayings or names or dates or things like that.
Right.
So I think that makes a big difference when you're creating something that's just completely different.
Well, it gives you more quote unquote job security. It's like I don't have to worry. Oh, I have this meeting controls thing up here. Sorry about that. I don't have to worry about other designers in my industry like doing what I'm doing right now, because a lot of designers they don't like public speaking. They don't like seeing themselves on camera or whatever. And it's like I've just done this stuff so much over time that I don't really think about it anymore. But I had to start really thinking, like when I first started my business, like I said, I had been in that situation where I thought I was going to lose my job and was freaking out. And I'm like, I need to figure out how to at least build my own thing at some level. And I mean, it started a long process. Like you said, it wasn't this immediate thing that I just decided, oh, I'm going to just do this right away. I did have a job in between that. But when I first finally did make that decision to make that jump, it's always been a consistent process of learning how to figure out what works for me and figure out pricing and structure and systems. And but having that experience of like, I don't have the security that I thought I did. Having that happen helped me learn an immense amount of skills and things over the years that has brought us to where we're at now, where I can say like, hey, you can buy my books and you can, all that stuff.
That's awesome.
It's like, it kind of looks like I'm getting this from under my desk here. So but that stuff is one of a kind. Like, you can read other books on business, you can read other books on design, but it's not going to be my book. And so if you as my customer or as my potential customer resonate with me, those are the people who buy my books. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kevin Kelly's article, 1,000 True Fans.
I think so, because
Sure.
I think I read something about that. It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, so basically the concept for those who might not know, it's instead of thinking when you're starting your own business or whatever, instead of thinking that instead of thinking that you have to go viral, that's pretty much what so many people think. Like, oh, if I start something, or if I start this idea, like I have to do this video that gets millions of views, because that's what we see. We see things like the really big quote unquote successes. But what I'm more interested in, and what Kevin Kelly says in this article, and I know I've heard Seth Godin talk about it a lot too. The concept is instead, don't aim for the millions. Like, find 1,000 people. Like, you can find 1,000 people on the internet that are into pretty much anything. And so if you can put out a signal with your content and your creation of your products and services, Brent actually just dropped the article in the comments there, so that's great. If you can put out that basically almost like a bat signal, like, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I do, here's why I do it, want to buy it, you end up forming a bond with the people who are paying attention much more so than you ever would just by buying a bunch of ads and, hanging a sign up somewhere and saying I'm a business owner. It's like, and what I see you doing with your business, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is because you're emulating that, you're living it, you're connecting at a very personal level with your audience. And so what happens is, you find one person who's into what you're doing, chances are that they know other people who would be into what you're doing, because you have similar interests. And so it's much more of an organic growth process that I believe is much more sustainable over time than just trying to gain followers for followers' sake.
That is so true. Like the core really good followers.
Right.
It's amazing for me in my business. And word of mouth is huge.
Because what happens is, if you're focused on trying to go really big, it's so overwhelming. It's so like untenable, and there's so many factors that you're not thinking about, but that it becomes impractical. It becomes something where you have to jump through so many hoops to try and get that again. But if your goal is like, I'm not even interested in that. Like, if that happens, okay, great. But what I'm interested in is, like, I'm interested in having the conversation right now with the people who are already listening. And it's something that obviously, as you continue growing, you have to figure out ways to maintain that connection without having to be in your inbox all the time, obviously. So the way that we've done that has been doing stuff like this, has been doing regular blogging, regular videos and stuff, because there are a lot of people who are in our corner over the years and have been watching us grow and watching us expand and whatever, and they want to support you.
Mhm.
So it's not just some random customer who's searching for you on Amazon. And those are great, but they're like, if you think of it in terms of concentric circles, like
Yeah.
the way that I'm focused on that core 1,000 fans or 100 fans or whatever, and then
Yeah.
as it grows out, you can create content and systems that make it so that you still maintain good connections with it. And so then the goal is to move people from those outer circles into your core group,
Yeah. That's
which
such a good way to put it too. Like I think,
it's much more practical to process, because then you don't get stressed out like, oh, I got to get likes, I got to get shares, I got to all that stuff. They
yeah.
call it vanity metrics for a reason, like,
Yeah.
right?
That's so true. And so just recently I started using a rewards program on my website, and I've
Okay,
had, like a handful of people, not a ton of people. I haven't
sure.
been promoting as much as I should, but you can see it if you go to my website. There's like a little pink rewards button on it, and wherever.
You point down. If you point down, it'll
Down.
there we go.
Well, I'm thinking it's on this side of my
Oh
website,
yeah, so Jenna,
but
guys,
it's reversed.
for those
It's
of you who
reversed
who
on
don't
the.
know, I've got some tech wizardry going on. So what we see and what you guys see is a little bit different. So that's why we're.
It's over this way. It's over this way.
It's actually,
So,
well, for you it's straight down.
well, I'm saying when you go to my website, it's
Okay.
on the right hand corner
Okay.
of on the bottom of my website. So if you go there, you'll see like this little pink rewards button,
Mhm.
and it's a Shopify app that I'm using, and I'm actually giving away like way more than I probably should. So if you refer a friend, it's you get a $10 off coupon,
Oh,
because
nice.
that is how much I want friends of friends.
Right.
That's how much like that concept of core, solid fans means so much to me.
Right.
Um, just because someone else telling someone about my jewelry and the impact that I made in like a gift giving situation or customer service or whatever
Right.
is just so much more than I could ever get for like a Facebook ad or paying for pay per click or something like that.
Right.
So I want someone else to give that word of mouth promotion.
Right.
It means so much more.
And that's the
So
thing, is that
great.
you're much more likely to form much longer and better relationships with your customers that way,
Yeah.
because then, I mean, it's what a lot of the larger companies do, but unfortunately, it can be, when it gets to that scale, it becomes very difficult unless they've kind of grown with you to maintain that real authentic connection.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be fascinating, or as we all continue building and whatever. Obviously, as technology continues changing and advancing, like, we're always figuring out new ways to connect with new people. So it'll be certainly interesting as things continue developing, how that all affects the way that we do business, the way that we connect with new people and things. So thank you for all that.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying too, just to finish up on that, is that like the ultimate goal doesn't have to be having millions of fans
Nope.
and being a huge company. Like, that's not something.
Nope.
I want my business to be a sole proprietorship for like the length of my business. That's what I have envisioned for myself. I don't want to become like a Walmart of jewelry making. I
Right.
like doing it hands on and having my own business, and having these core fans. The 1,000 true followers is a
Right.
great aspiration
Right, because and
in
that's
itself.
trackable. You
Hmm.
can maintain that, and and that's the thing. The 1,000 number it's not necessarily 1,000. Like, you obviously have to adjust that for
Yeah.
the services that you're selling. Like, some people, it might just be like, maybe you need like 5 or 10 clients every month, and you're good. Like, you're
Yeah.
able to travel and do what you want when you want. Like, that's the goal. So my thing has been like, okay, like you mentioned before, what is that basic number that you have to hit every month in order to live the kind of lifestyle that you want to live? Tim Ferriss
Yeah.
has a good blog post. I think it's called Ideal Lifestyle Costing.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
and
Okay.
so I can put that in the show
You
notes
have
also.
given me so many things to look up. I'm so impressed.
It's years and years of just kind of trying to figure out what works, right? but he has an excellent article on that, and it's like a calculator. It's like a resource. So I think it's again
Okay.
ideal lifestyle costing, and so that's a really great resource if you're trying to figure out what are your actual costs, and it also is set up in a way that's like, hey, dummy, like make sure you pay yourself because
Yeah.
otherwise you're just a volunteer all the time, and then you
Yeah.
wonder why you're tired. So. Um,
That's so true.
Awesome. Well, hey, that's pretty much I think all we've got time for today. We're almost done 2.5 hours.
We talked for so long. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, don't apologize. This has been great. There's at least 4 or 5 people still watching, so thank you guys. Kyle just posted the link to Tim's blog, so thank you. Brent also just
Awesome.
posted the link, so we've got 2 people
You
who
guys
just
are
posted it. So
awesome.
thank you
Kyle
guys.
and Brent sticking it out. I like it.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, do you have uh, how can people find you? Obviously, we've got your website, so
Yeah,
let's kind of
on
do
my
that.
website, jennascifres.com, the little link right there. And then if you want to sign up for my email newsletter,
Hmm.
that is on my website. It's a little pink bar at the top of my website if you want to keep in touch. Um, and my email is just jenna@jennascifres.com if you want to email me.
Awesome. Okay. So also, guys, make sure to check out the resources page that Jenna posted up. There's a lot of good stuff on there, especially if you're wanting to start and do your own thing. There's stuff on Etsy and Amazon, and there's all kinds of cool
Oh
resources there.
yeah, there's tons of links on there, and then I've got some product links also, and then a bunch of like podcasts and just I just had so many people ask me for
Right?
advice about things that I just
Just
wanted to
like
make
just
one
go here.
page on my website where I'm like, okay, go here and and
I
here's
am actually
all the
working on one of those for my own thing because
you
same
should.
concept. It's like there's
Yeah,
what books do you recommend? Well, in my forthcoming book, The Science of Getting Rich,
love it.
I do have I think like 7 or 8 pages of book recommendations back
Oh,
here.
that's awesome.
There are books that I've read over the years that have very positively impacted our creative career. Um,
That's very
so
cool.
um, so is there anything else that you wanted to say or do? And then I'm gonna do a little wrap up here, and then we'll go.
Okay. Nope, that's it for me. We talked a ton, but
Okay.
I thank you so much for having me. I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed it. I love talking about business, and you had some really great points and questions, and I just had a really good time.
Great. Awesome.
So
Well,
thank
don't
you.
don't sign off. I'm
Okay,
gonna.
I won't.
Okay. So guys, just a quick heads up here. I have been working diligently on finishing this up, and you can probably see through this because the cover is actually green right here. And if you haven't figured out, I'm in a green screen room. I'm not actually in a cartoon right now. So, but I've been doing readings from this on my Facebook page, and I will be compiling all of those and putting them on my YouTube channel and having a really nice long playlist of probably 17 or 20 videos or something of reading through this and commentary on it. It's a republishing of a classic by Wallace Wattles, and so the subtitle is How to Think, How to Act, and What to Do to Harness Your Creative Potential. The original book is called The Science of Getting Rich, and he talks a lot about how to create your own stuff and monetize it. And that's a really, really distilled down version of what it talks about in here. But I will have the ability for you guys to pre order that really soon. Actually, I think you can go to our website, rdshop.biz, and pre-order it right now, but I haven't completely finished the listing yet, so I haven't promoted it yet. So if you watched it this far and you go to our online shop, you can actually pre-order it. If you click all products, you'll see it there. But we're going to be doing a bunch of different products to go along with the book launch, like posters and things that are themed along the lines of the stuff that we talk about in the book and how to go about making money and creating the life that you want to live. So that's that. Also, make sure if you haven't already, if you see it down there, I can't point at it exactly because my hand will get cut off here. But make sure to sign up for our VIPs list at reformdesigns.biz/VIPs. You'll get a free digital copy of the first book that I wrote with Lainey Sullivan. It's called Stop Wasting Time and Burning Money, How to Crush Procrastination and Live the Life of Your Dreams. And this says by aspiring New York Times bestselling authors, because we haven't hit that list, but that word aspiring prevents me from getting sued. At least I think. I'm not a lawyer. I hope they don't sue me. So anyway, you'll get a free copy of that as well as a workbook that goes with it that'll help you really nail down your own creative career and the things that you're trying to build. And lastly, if you are looking for someone to help you build your own brand and you're serious, you're like, okay, you know what, I've had this business for a while, I'm ready to go, I want to build my own brand and have my own style, you can actually go to our website at logos.reformdesigns.biz. We actually just put together some new brand builder packages where we can get you your logo, your business cards, your social media, and we've got 3 different tiers of brand builder packages depending on where you're at in your business journey. So if you're a larger business and you're ready for a refresh and you need like the whole 9 yards, you need a website, video, all that stuff, then check out our enterprise package. And if you have any custom things that you're wanting to do, make sure to visit our website at reformdesigns.biz and fill out our contact form or book a time to chat with me. I'm happy to help you bring your ideas to life. So that's about all I've got for today. So Jenna, thank you for coming on. This has been great. There's a lot of great content in here, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you further and seeing your business grow and championing you as well as the other entrepreneurs who are watching, because we're making this stuff happen, guys, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you for watching. We really love you. We appreciate you. And that's all I've got for today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Take it easy, guys.